Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to Football Heritage TV. I hope that you and your loved ones are well on this Tuesday. It's Tuesday, isn't it? Welcome. We've got a bit of content for you today. Got the morning show, followed by a panel show with other creators. Just something different. It doesn't always have to be Spurs. That will be at 5 o'clock. And then this evening, we've got a live European score show and scores from across the UK and Europe over on Big Up. So thank you very much to everyone who did help me last night, went over and supported. Some people, though, just are arses. I've realized that some people just say the most stupid, send comments, send the most ridiculous things. So thank you if you weren't one of those people. Listen, the channel is called Big Up. I can't help that. I don't know if people think that's silly, but hey, it is what it is. I think everyone's just getting a little bit too cocky on the internet these days, aren't they? Everyone seems to be, everyone seems to need to police absolutely everything. Anyway, this morning, I want to talk about a couple of things. I want to talk about one, Sonny, Heung-min Son, Min Hong Son. He's played 441 games for Tottenham. He scored 172 goals in all competitions. This is his 10th season in the Premier League for Tottenham Hotspur. But is that time coming to an end? Has he outstayed his welcome? Have we kept him too long? Have we kept him for the wrong reasons, i.e., the marketing in Asia and the revenue that he can generate from being the most famous person in South Korea? Are we over the top? Are we going over the top? Is Sonny okay? Is he playing well enough that he should be in the first team at Tottenham? Will he be in next season? Is his contract extension purely so that Spurs can cash in on him this summer rather than lose him for a free? Look, lots of questions surrounding Son. What I do find interesting is, you know, you've got a player there that we've all loved. We've all loved watching in a Tottenham shirt for years and years and years. And like anything, everything good must come to an end at some point. Everything does come to an end at some point. And for me, I've slowly but surely seen it over the last few years that, yes, while Sonny still managed to score some goals, you could just see from his all-round game for me that it's just not quite there like it used to be. Listen, I still believe if you put Sonny through on goal, most of the time he's going to score goals. However, there is more to the game than that these days. There is more to that. You need to be offering more. You know, his hold-up play has been really poor. He's not taking players on like he used to. That burst of pace, again, he's getting a little bit older. And it's that conundrum, isn't it? Because whilst it's not, oh my God, Sonny's terrible and what a terrible career he's had at Spurs, because he hasn't. He's had a very good career at Spurs. I'll let other people debate the legend word. But at the end of the day, when things start to go a bit south, what do you do? What do you do? Do you keep hold of such a player? Do you keep flogging that horse, so to speak? Do you just say he's going to play himself into form? And then I suppose you have to look at, is he out of form versus is this who Son is now? Now, we've seen him score 6 Premier League goals this season. When I look at Sonny, it's, you know, I think 2 of those goals were against Everton in the second game of the season, I believe. Yeah, second game, first home game of the season. You know, one was a tap-in and one was because of a mistake. There's been a couple more tap-ins this season. It's not the Sonny we know, is it? It's not the Sonny that can get the ball, cut inside and whip one in the top corner. Now, I'm not saying he's not capable of still doing that every now and then, but we used to see that more often than not. And now we're not really seeing it. And it's a shame, isn't it? It is a shame. I think, look, let's get past the whole, oh, he's crap, he's great, he's world-class, he's not. And let's call it for what it is. It's a shame that somebody that's given this club so much now doesn't seem to be giving a lot. And I think when you look at his all-round game, that's the big thing for me. Sorry, I don't know why this one won't. Sorry, I don't know what's going on there. This bit of light here, I cannot work out which one closes it. Never mind. There you go. Let's just pretend that's a little angel on my shoulder. It's yeah. When you look at him, it's his all-round game, isn't it? It's his hold-up play. A lot of the time now, when the ball goes out wide to the left to him, he's dispossessed very easily. He's running into people quite a lot, and he's just not. I don't know. It's sad, isn't it? It is sad to see. But also, I want to talk today about what does this mean for the players coming in behind him? What does this mean for Yang? You know, he's out on loan at QPR. But what does it mean for Yang? What does it mean for Odegaard? You know, Odegaard's now come back from injury. Do we start to see Odegaard play on the left wing instead of Son? Are we going to have that conundrum of, oh, well, Odegaard's started the last 2 games. Oh, he's not played well. Straight away, get Sonny back in. Or do we persist? Mikey Moore. Mikey Moore's raved about. Now, you know me, I don't go crazy over young players. I believe that they need time to develop. I think they need to be coached, and I think they need time to harness their ability to grow into being men. There's a lot more than just having football ability that means you're going to make it as a pro footballer. What about him? What do we do? Like, everyone's raving about him. Does he come into the team on the left-hand side? Do you say, right, Mikey Moore, this is now you. You're going to play till the end of the season, and then next year you're going to be our number 1 left-sided player? Lots of different things. You've got Manor Solomon who'll come back to the club. I'm guessing he'll go straight out. I'm guessing maybe Leeds will come in and buy him full-time. I'm guessing Leeds are going to go up. They do look very, very good, don't they? You know, you look at these players and you think, what are Spurs going to do? And that's why I said the Son conundrum, because he's club captain. Let's wrap this all into, he's club captain, isn't he? So do you leave out your captain? I don't think Ange will. I think he might introduce players sporadically every now and then, but I don't think he's going to turn around and go, right, Sonny, you're no longer my left winger. Also, you know what we're like as a fan base, right? You know what we're like as a fan base. Sonny will score in the next game and we'll go, oh, he's back. Oh, Sonny's back. He should play every game. and that's kind of where we are as a fan base, right? That's what we do. So it's really, really, really very interesting to see what's going to happen. We've got to look at the possibility now. We've got 14. Oh, I might have made that up. We've got 13 Premier League games left to go. So we could have 15 is the minimum number of games we will play this season. 15. That's all dependent on getting through the next Europa stages. So we've got 15 games plus any added extras if we go through, which I expect us to at this stage. The question is going to be, what if we don't qualify for Europe next season? What do we then do with Yang, Moore, Odegaard, Son? What do you do? Because if you are playing once a week, and this was the complaint that Ange had last season, right, was, well, hang on, we're only playing once a week. How can I get all of these players game time, right? The problem this year has been, we've got too many games. Last year was not enough games. So what do you do next season if we don't have Europe? Now, I don't think we're going to get European football through the league. I think it would be a monumental uphill task for Tottenham to get European football. Sorry, I nearly got my words right there. To get European football through the Premier League. So if we have a look at that, there we go. You can see, if I put myself to the side, there we go. Tottenham Hotspur. So we are, European normally goes down to 7th, possibly 8th. So let's look at the 7th, 8th area in the table. If it's 7th, then you're looking at being 11 points behind Newcastle United. And that's a big turnaround in 13 games. It's 4 wins. It's 4 wins, isn't it? So what you would be saying is, well, whatever Newcastle do, we've got to match that and add 4 wins. So let's, again, conservatively, if Newcastle United, they've got 13 games, let's say Newcastle United win 5 of those games. If they win 5 of those games, and they're more than capable, if they win 5 of those games, Tottenham would need to win 9. Now, that's just to get into 7th. Now, if we look at Fulham, who are 2 points further behind, you're now looking at 3 wins, possibly 3 wins and a draw, all depending on goal difference at the time. And at the moment, we've got a +7 goal difference on them. But what you've also got to take into account is we look at that 7th place and that 8th place. What you've got to take into account is Villa, Brighton, Brentford. Those teams as well, we would all need to do better than all of those teams and by some considerable margin. Now, the reason for anyone that's just joined, the reason we're talking about that is what would it mean to not have Europe next season? What would it mean? We focused mainly at the beginning of this show on the left-hand side because that's where we are kind of overloaded. If you look at it, it's crazy to think that. At the moment, you've got Son there, Werner there, Moore, Odegaard, Yang. Like there's options. In the summer, I fully expect that that Werner will obviously leave and won't be signed permanently. Son, if he stays, you've now got 3 or 4 left wingers. I expect Solomon, as I said, to go. You've now got 3 or 4 left wingers and 1 game a week. What do you do? So let me know in the chat now, if you could, guys. Let me know, guys and girls. Let me know what would you do? I mean, this is hypothetical. We could still get Europe. Obviously, we know that the biggest chance we got of Europe is by winning the Europa League, which is a tough ask for me. Listen, I think that's what Ange needs to do to save his job, but that's a different conversation. I think if he doesn't win that Europa League, then it's been a monumental disaster. However, if he can win that, then we get into Champions League football, and suddenly all is well in the garden. So look, fine lines. And by fine lines, I mean Spurs would have to go on a very, very good run in the Europa League. I don't think we will, but I'll be pleasantly surprised, and it would be absolutely amazing if we did manage to pull it off. Let's have a look at some of your comments about what you would do with that left-hand sided area. KJ Stantz has said, got to bring more in for Son now. Loves Son, but he has lost his pace. He's not beating players now, just losing the ball. Yeah, listen, I don't disagree with you in any way about the Son part. But the Mikey Moore part is where I think we've got some really interesting conversations, because if you look at it, we just signed Odegaard. We just signed Wilson Odegaard. Why? If you've got Mikey Moore coming through, is Wilson Odegaard going to be pushed onto the right? Could that be a long-term plan for him? Because I don't see Moore as a right-sided player. I don't feel like that's his area. We saw him play there. We've seen him play there a few times, notably against Brentford, notably against Aston Villa in the Cup. And I thought that, he had that one good run where he put the cross in. Other than that, I didn't think he looked too comfortable on the right-hand side. And for me, that's why I think he'll be a left-sided player. Yang, will he be a right-sided player? Will he be left-sided? Let me know what you think. Alfie Hall has said, I think potentially 8th is the best we can get. 7th for me is out of reach already, but even 8th is a push. Alfie, I agree. 8th is not 9 points off 8th. And, we've not been the sort of team, under this manager in the last 2 years to go on these massive runs. So it's going to be a big, big ask. Credit to the boys if they can pull that round. I just think it's a massive ask. We've got Fulham away. We've got Bournemouth at home. We've got Man City at home. We've got Chelsea away, West Ham away, Liverpool away. We've got some tough games. We've got some really tough games in there. So I think it's going to be very, very tough to make that up. I think realistically, if we're going to be honest from looking at the league table, I think we're looking at 11th downwards, maybe creeping into 10th. But even then, I just don't think that's a good year, is it? Corey boy, big up Corey. How you doing, bro? I said in our last 13 games, we have to play 8 in the top 10. We do. We very much do. Big up. Good morning, Ben Kaufman. How are you, sir?
I'm alive. I'm about to have my first cup of coffee of the day. The sun is shining, and it's another day with Savalicious. That's what we like to be here.
It is another day with Savalicious, who is not having coffee because he doesn't like it.
And wrong.
I'm back on the 6-pack revolution, which is what I did when I lost 2 stone about a year and a half ago. I'm back on
Coffee's actually really good for that, by the way.
Huh?
Coffee's really good for that. Coffee's really good for that.
No. This is actually, if you Google it, it's actually called the 6-pack revolution. Yeah. I'm not allowed to do any gym work at the moment because of my foot. Yeah. So what I was told to do was if I wanted to do this,
dumbbells in bed.
Well, it was get the eating right first, get the eating and drinking. I'm doing 5 of them a day, Anyway, Ben, we're talking about, I'm starting off by talking about Son. And just saying, I know he's getting a lot of stick within the Spurs fan base. Some will say rightly so. Other people think it's harsh because he's been such a great ambassador for Tottenham Hotspur. Where are you with the Son piece? Is it that he's being criminally played out of position? Is it that he's just fading away as a footballer? Should he be moved on now? Will he stay in the summer? What do you make of it, mate?
I think this, unfortunately, with Sonny, it's as much as Sonny is a massive ambassador for the club, the history of Son Heung-min is also the history of Harry Kane. He's not been the same since Harry Kane left, and you could possibly say that he suffered from the same problem that Harry Kane had at Tottenham. They didn't surround him with enough top-class players to get the best out of him, and now he's fading away. And now he's being expected to carry the load of very average individuals in that football team. It's a crying shame because at one point I would say Sonny was actually the best finisher in Europe, other than Messi and Ronaldo, who I don't see them as world class anymore. I see them as gods. Like, I think world class is like I don't think they're world class. Yeah. They are freaks. So I think at one point, Sonny was going toe-to-toe, finishing-wise, scoring the goals. And you saw, I would say Sonny was our X-Factor for many years. Spurs teams, even the poor teams, have always had like an X-Factor player. The 99 team, Ginola, for example. I think Sonny was obviously... Sonny is nowhere near as good a footballer as David Ginola, because David Ginola would be one of the best players in Europe if he played now.
Sure.
But in terms of that guy that brought a spark, when you needed Sonny to do like a 25, 30-yard long shot, he'd do it. He'd get the ball on the left-hand side, cutting on his right foot, and it was in the top corner. And then, like the Arsenal game, ran the entire way up the pitch against Arsenal, cutting was a goal. Against Burnley, ran the entire length of the pitch. He brought those moments, and you've called him here. He's a moments player, and when you have moments players, you need someone who's going to provide moments for him. And I don't think he can get moments in this team because it's so disjointed, it's so frantic. Moments need a bit of mental clarity. And I don't think I don't think this system allows mental clarity, because I don't think this system allows clarity. I think the way this system is supposed to work is organised chaos, is what I'm going to say. That's what Angepostecoglou wants. Organised chaos. Press, overload the opposition, get past him, cross low in the box, goal. That's what he wants. Sonny's not that guy. He was never that guy. He's never been a left winger ever in his career, even when he was very young at the old White Hart Lane. God, I miss White Hart Lane.
I still call it White Hart Lane. I still call it White Hart Lane.
He was never that player, even at White Hart Lane. He can't do it, especially can't do it now. He's 32. He can't do it. He hasn't got the... I think he's still quick. Sonny is still quick, but he doesn't have the... He doesn't have the physical capacity to do those gut-busting runs 4, 5, 6 times a game like he used to do. With Harry Kane, he could do a gut-busting run because he knew whatever Harry Kane did, that ball was going to land on a sixpence. So that's what you think that Maddison would be that player. Maddison's never really been that. Do you see Maddison even at Leicester doing 60, 70-yard balls to his?
No, it's not his game. It's not his game.
It's never been his game. So what Sonny needs, if he's ever going to work again, is either a deep line playmaker that's going to do those long... Basically, he needs either a Tom Huddleston or he needs another Harry Kane. Someone that's going to put a ball between full-back and centre-back that he can burst into, get on his right foot, bang, goal. And that's not the way we're ever going to play again. So unfortunately, it might be time to go, which is going to be very, very sad. It's going to be very sad because I love the geezer. I don't buy shirts at the club shop, but Nick kindly provided me one of those websites where you can get an exact replica of the Tottenham shirt.
Yeah.
Other t-shirt providers are available. He's the first person I thought to get on it because I just love the geezer. The guy has given Tottenham fans so much joy over the years with his finishing. And
it's such a shame, isn't it? When you look at it, Ben, I mean,
it's my Batman quote, Savva. I've said this about and now Philly's copying it. Damn you, Philly. You live long enough, you either die the hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And I think Sonny's living that now. He's there now because people are vilifying him for something he can't do.
But surely now some of that needs to go on to them. Like now the manager's got options on that left-hand side. He has. Now, I want to move it to a different stance on the Sun piece because lots of people are saying that he's vocally saying he wants to leave Spurs behind the scene. I don't know, mate. I don't know.
Don't blame him.
I'm just a YouTuber, right? My question is this: fine, sell him, sure, absolutely. For me, I would have sold him 2 years ago. By the way, Ben, I would have sold him for massive money and rebuilt.
Yeah.
The question is this. The question is this. If we sell Sonny in the summer, I think it's going to be when, not if, but if we sell Sonny in the summer, do you think we've already got the replacements for Son, i.e. Odegaard and more? Or will Spurs go and be a big club and say, right, we're losing one of our best players we've had for 10 years. Let's go and buy X, Y, Z who can pick up that mantle. I think I know the answer, but what do you think?
No one's replacing Son Heung-min at Spurs. I really like Mikey Moore. But I see him more as a inside number 10 that plays on the left, just like Maddison basically was at Leicester. I don't see him as a winger. He doesn't have, obviously, with a bit of training and a bit of, he still hasn't fully developed because he's still a kid, for God's sake. He doesn't scream to me, Mikey Moore, as someone with enormous amounts of pace. He seems to me with someone that's got a quicker brain. So again, you're right. He likes to play on that left wing because he isn't the quickest, which allows him to use his speed of brain to make him the space to be able to do damage. Whereas on the right, if you're playing as a right-sided player with right-footed, you need pace. The way you make space is by using your pace to make a couple of yards for yourself and then whip the ball in. I don't think he's very pacey. I think he's technically very good. But we can't put our hopes and dreams on two kids. Odegaard's a kid that's had a 4-month hamstring injury, 4 or 5 month hamstring injury, and Mikey Moore's had some issue this year. I don't know what the issue is. I've been told things that some of them. I've been told things that Mikey. Good to see you, Jose. We can't put all our hopes. We need to get a decent level left winger that's going to chip in a few goals. And that's what we're going to have to do. This is where Levy has got to say, okay, this Project Youth isn't working. It's not working. Either you full-blown go down the Project Youth and you sell every older head. That includes Solanke, it includes Richarlison, it includes Romero, it includes everyone, and go full youth. Or you've got to start buying a few... not journeymen, but people that are coming into their prime that know what they're doing. And someone I would have liked before he went to Barcelona was Rafinha. Rafinha would be brilliant. I'd love to have a Rafinha in this team now. Someone like that.
Well, do you remember us as a fan base? Some turned their noses up at the thought of having a Rafinha in the team.
Yeah,
like that's where we were. We were turning our noses up at people like Rafinha. I remember 2 years ago when we were linked with Nathan Ake and people were turning their nose up at Nathan Ake. And I remember saying, sorry, do we realize who we are? Like we turn our noses up as fans at a lot of players. But look, the Son thing is interesting because my worry is when Son goes, and it's not about Son going, I'm cool with that. Who do Odegaard, Moore, Yang, who do these guys have to learn of? Who's their winger?
I think our best winger is Manor Solomon. I think he's our best winger.
No, I know, but my point is, Manor Solomon's not going to be here next year. We know that. He'll probably end up going to Leeds on a permanent.
Yeah.
Right? But my point is this, who do these young players that we're going to put all the pressure that's going to go onto them, who do they learn off? And equally, Ben, what I was talking about just before you joined, I'm not sure if you caught any of it, was at the moment, as it stands, it doesn't look like we're going to have European football next year. Now, all right, winning the Europa League, that's a big goal. That would be a major achievement. But if we don't, we're going to have one game a week again. And now you're back to a position where so how do you get minutes into Moore's legs and Yang and Odeber and Johnson and this player? And then you're going to have Bergvall Bergvall and Gray in central midfield, along with Bentancur, Basuma, Sarr, Madison. You're going to have one game a week. So all of these young players, you need to buy in players. This is the conundrum. You need to buy in senior players for them to learn from. Yeah. But if you buy in those senior players and you're only playing once a week, when do those young players actually get the opportunity to flourish? Does that all kind of?
Yeah, it's one of the. I'm not going to call it a lie. It's one of the mistruths I was told beginning of last season before Ange took over. I was always told by the people that knew Ange from previous clubs that what Ange likes to do is he likes to make wholesale changes on the 60th minute. That's what he likes to do. He plays a really high intensity game. Everyone is exhausted on the 60th minute. Then he makes wholesale changes. He's never done that at Spurs. He's never done that. So that's one of the things that we've been told that Ange likes to do. He doesn't actually do at Spurs. So if you're going to do that, I actually think it could work. If you're going to play one game a week, you can do that because you've got people that are you could have 1 week they're playing 60 minutes and the next week they're playing 40 minutes and you can manage that because you've got 5 substitutions. I don't see it happening. But Ange has already said with leaders, I prefer to create them, not buy them in. I think he's going to say the same thing about wingers. He's going to prefer to create them rather than buy them in. And I don't see that as a sustainable method for us for now. Maybe in about 5-6 years, but the time that they actually get to that level, will teams want to buy them off us? If they're that good, teams will want to buy them off us, and people don't want to be languishing. So you do need to have a few ready-made players. It's good for them, the fabric of the team, to have a journeyman in that team that's been there, seen it, done it, knows the tricks. You've got to have someone that knows the tricks. You've got to have someone that has been about it. And it's what we've got to do. We've got to change the philosophy of a football cup. We'll implement a philosophy firstly, but that's just the way it is. We need to buy in ready-made players, and for good fees as well. Good fees and good wages, because that's where we're scrimping. We're scrimping on wages.
Yeah, it can't be more players that are at the same level we've got. I think we've got to get to this stage where, I was talking with Lubo this morning, and we were talking about the number of young players coming through at Tottenham. When you look at Moore, who's come through the youth team, then you look at players that have been bought like Yang, Odeber, Vuskovic, Gray, Bergvall. Yeah. I'm all for that. I've got no problem with that. But the problem is now at some point you've got to put the lid back on and say, right, okay, that's it, done. We've done with that. Now what are we going to buy around them? Now we're going to go and buy some seasoned pros. And when people keep telling me, but we can't attract anyone. I'm sorry, we're Tottenham Hotspur. This whole nonsense that we can't attract any better footballers than the likes of Newcastle or Fulham or Bournemouth or Forest. It's completely ridiculous. It's all down to scouting. Yeah. For me, I think what we've got to do next season is we've got to pick which of these young players do we see for the right now. And if that's 2 or 3 of them, let them be in the squad. The other 2 or 3, get them out on loan. Give them a full year. Like for me, Mikey Moore would benefit from a whole year out on loan at a team that's challenging at the top of the championship.
Yeah.
That, like what
Mikey Moore would do really well. If Leeds don't go up, I think Leeds will go up this year. I think it's especially after last brilliant result for Leeds last night. I think if a team like a Leeds would be firstly because the culture of Tottenham Hotspur is one of the things. Being friends with a Leeds fan, big up Jesse because I love Jesse. Spurs and Leeds are so similar. I think Mikey Moore would flourish at a team like Leeds. I think he could get into a similar culture. I think he'd be comfortable. I loan him to Leeds. Loan him and Mike and Solomon both back to Leeds next season. Lower end of the Premier League. Get him some Premier League football. I think he'd do really well there. I think it's a great club. I think he'd do well there. I think he's a quality footballer. I think top of the level Championship, lower level Premier League, Mikey Moore can do a job. We saw that against Villa. He was the one spark in the game that we said, yeah, you played all right. You played all right.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because at the end of the day, I know there'll be people, I haven't even got down in the comments yet. I know there'll be people saying, oh, well, these top youngsters shouldn't go out on loan. But for me, I feel like you can't have a team full of youngsters. Like if you look at Arsenal have got 2 really good youngsters in that team at the moment that, let's be fair, they're playing because of injury, but they'll be dipped in and out, and they have been all season. Lewis Skelly and Waneri. Now, if they're going to do that, that's fine. But what they're not trying to do is blood 4, 5, 6 at the same time. That's at the moment what this squad is looking like for Spurs next season. As I said, you've got Bergvall and Gray. There's 2 of your centre mids for next season. And if you're going to play, Ben, if you're going to only play in the league, right, you've got how many centre mids do you actually need to see you through an entire Premier League season? So it's really, really difficult in terms of what we do now. We've kind of snookered ourselves by only buying so many youngsters in the last 3 or 4 windows. We've given ourselves snookers to get out of. And the thing is, this is why when people tell me in the summer, how have I cut that? Sorry. When you say something in your head and you actually say it out loud. I've got a little tear in my mic and I don't know how. That's why when people have said to me, like all in the summer, going, oh, Savva, give it 2-3 years. It's a youth project, blah, blah, blah. That's all well and good. But the youth project only works if they've got someone to learn from. So I think we're in a real difficult position going into this summer.
It's what we've done is we've built a youth project without someone that works with youth players.
Agreed. Agreed.
Because correct me if I'm wrong, the average age of Ange-Postecoglou's team at Celtic was 26, 27. He had players like McGregor in the team. He had players like Joe Hart in the team. He had a few older voices in the team that would rally the troops, and then you'd have players like Kyogo that did really well, and of course you had Jota in the team. We do need a few older. This is why it doesn't make sense to me, Savva, because I'm being told he's doing one thing, but history tells me he does another thing. So I need to see it making sense. I need to see 2 and 2 making 4. If I'm seeing 2 and 2 making 635,000, it doesn't make sense to me. I need to compute it. So it screams at the moment that we need to be bringing in a manager that works with youth players. Pochettino is obviously the one that everyone's banding about at the moment. There's very heavy rumours that there is going to be a reunion on the cards in the next 18 months after the World Cup. Kieran McKenna's a really good option as well. Worked at Ipswich, worked in the under-18s at Tottenham as well. It's one of the reasons I quite like the idea of Graham Potter, because he's brilliant with youth players. For once, West Ham have done something that actually makes sense with their history. The Academy of Football. They bring in someone that works with academy kids. So it needs to make sense. If we're playing high-intensity football, we need high-intensity players. If we're doing Project Youth, we actually need to have a manager that does youth players. Everything's got to fall and everything's got to make sense, because what I'm seeing is someone saying the sky's black when actually it's quite nice and blue. This is what things have got to make sense, and we have to move forward. We need to get all our ducks need to be in a line now, and we need to look for that in the summer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just quickly, a comment that I saw there that I wanted to talk about. Mikey will refuse to go to a lower than a Prem club. Sure, but I mean, is it more important to get weekly games, or is it more important to be at a bigger club? at that age. He'll be 18 next year.
Yeah.
You've got to weigh that up, mate. When we say, he should only be loaned if it's to a Premier League club, how many Premier League clubs will loan a 17, 18-year-old kid that hasn't proved anything yet?
And I'll ask, because I love Matty. How many Premier League clubs did Harry Kane get loaned into?
Yeah.
Zero. Every club he was loaned to was lower than the Premier League. So Premier League football is not the be-all and end-all. Maybe even Championship and League One football might actually get him to be more of an adult, because you're up against old school journeymen. Again, all the tricks, all the things, and they will hit you. They will tackle you. There's no VAR. There's no protection for players in the lower leagues. So maybe it would be a good place for him to hone his skills on worse pitches, and when he gets onto the snooker fields, maybe he'll be able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's all very interesting, isn't it? Look, I saw a comment as well. I want to bring up from my old Maca Jose at El Del Gocorel. I want to bring it up because again, this is slightly miffed, what he's saying here. Let's just have a look. So he said, question, Savva, do you not think that wages is a problem? If Forest, Brighton and Bournemouth are willing to pay more in wages, then surely that is more of a pull for players than Spurs at the moment. Jose, whilst you put that question up and while Ben's been talking, I've just gone and I've brought up all 4 clubs that you've mentioned here. So Tottenham, Forest, Brighton and Bournemouth. I can tell you, Jose, in no way, shape or form do those 3 clubs offer anywhere near what Tottenham offer. Nowhere near. Let me give you an example, right? Let me give you an example. So Tottenham Hotspur, okay, we have 1, 2, 3. We have 5 players on over £100,000 a week, and then 3 further players on 90 grand a week. So we've got 8 players that are on 90k plus, and our weekly wage bill is 2.1 million, which is 111.9 million a year in wages. Okay, so remember that. That's 2.1 million and 111.9. If we then go to the next club, that is Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest have 1 player over 100 grand a week, which is Nikola Milenkovic. Only one player over 90 grand a week, other than Milenkovic, which is Chris Wood. And they, listen to this, their weekly wage bill is £1 million. Yeah. And their yearly wage bill is 55 million. Their yearly wage bill is half of Tottenham, right? And if I move this to now, if we look at Bournemouth don't have a single player over 90,000, and they only have 4 players over £70,000 a week. Okay. Their weekly wage is 979,000. And their yearly wage bill is 50 million. Yeah. Right. And then if we go to Brighton, they don't have a single player over £90,000 a week. Yeah. Kadioglu is on 87. Then you've got Duncan Matoma on 80, and then everyone else is 70 or below. And their wage bill is 1.1 million a week, and 59 million a year. So Tottenham Hotspur, just to answer your question, Jose, are we paid double what all of these football clubs pay? So Forest, Brighton and Bournemouth aren't above us because they pay better wages. They're above us because they're better run football clubs with better coaches, and the way they scout is better. So apologies, Ben, for the long rant, but
it wasn't a rant. It's quite interesting, actually. But I do agree. From a certain angle.
Just quickly, Ben, in the chat, chuck teams at me. I'll let you know who's paid what. I've got all the lists up, but this is why it's really, before we just say, oh, we don't pay to Arsenal and Man City level, right? But all of these teams like the Forests and the Bournemouths and the Brightons, we absolutely wipe them. We play them off the park in terms of salaries. Anyway, sorry, Ben.
I actually agree with Jose, but from a different angle. Wages only help you when you're pushing into that top 4, because you're more likely to top players can go to any of the top 4 clubs and they'll be happy. But then they'll say, okay, what are you paying me? But the difference between second, third and fourth is nothing really. It's basically a ceremonial position. That but then it's wages. When I was growing up, it's 2005, 2007. We signed a player called Luka Modric with Damien Comoli as our director of football. There are these gems about. We just need a better director of football. We need a better managing director, and I think we need a better manager we can get more players into the system and get better. Because I think this manager needs certain types of players in every single position. Where we're at as a club now, we can't be like this. We've got to have more players that can fit in multiple positions. So we need someone like a better director of football that's going to get these young talents that can play more lightly in more different positions. So we need a better director of football. Our director of football's terrible. I'd get rid of all of them. I'd get rid of Langer. I'd get rid of Munn. I'd get rid of McKenzie. I'd get rid of the other guy, whatever the hell his name is. I can't even remember his name. He's so unimportant. I'd clear the decks immediately. We need. I quite like Paratici because I think Paratici is good at bringing in the journeyman. I think I rate bringing in players like Benson Kerr at the time before his ACL. I think I liked bringing in a Kulusevski. I liked bringing in a Perisic. But we need multiple directors of football that have an idea. Okay, this guy brings in the youth players that are going to build the rest of the team for a multiple. This guy's going to be the guy that sprinkles the salt on. We need to have more people in that scouting department that understand you need to build a puzzle. This puzzle fits with that puzzle. This one fits with that one. Whereas I think Langer is so engrossed with bringing in youth players. I don't think he's bringing in players that fit into a good football team. So sack Langer. Get rid of him.
I agree with you. By the way, I just wanted to go to the other end of the spectrum with the player wages, and so I went straight to the team that are top of the Premier League. Just by way of example, Ben, Liverpool Football Club. They have, here we go. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They have 12 players on over 100 grand a week. They've got one player in the 200s, which is Virgil van Dijk, and then one player in the 300s that is Mo Salah. And their wage bill in the year is 129 million compared to our 111. So I agree with Jose from that side. I don't agree with it coming the other way. If he had said, oh, well, hang on, we can't compete with Liverpool, Arsenal. And again, it's not that we can't compete. It's that we don't compete, right? I think that's the frustration, is that we don't compete. But look,
the wages, Savva, the wages, Savva, is what's going to... Because I'm now hearing rumours. I don't think if they're strong rumours. I'm hearing rumours that Arne Slot wants Van der Ven. If Liverpool come in, what's Mickey Van der Ven on? 70 grand a week, I think, at Spurs. I don't know his wages. He's not on a high amount of money at Spurs. He's not one of Spurs' highest earners. If they come in and say 150, you get to play with Virgil van Dijk, you're working for Arne Slot, I'm gone, mate. I'm gone. Romero, big club comes in, there's 200 grand a week, you get to play for Real Madrid. He's gone. This is where wages do matter. But I think the problem is I have so little feelings about this football team, apart from Mickey van der Ven, Vicario, and maybe one more. Get rid of the entire team. I literally have no connection with any of these players. No connections.
Yeah, but by the way, Jose's come back to me and asked me to now compare to the other people around us. Now, if we look at I like this. This is a good game. If we look at Newcastle, now Newcastle actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players on over 100 grand a week.
Yeah.
But they're very bottom heavy. They've got a lot of players on 50k or less. Yeah. Now, what that actually means is they've balanced it out. They've got loads up there, loads down here, and they actually, listen to this, Newcastle United, actually ours was 111 million a year, right? Theirs is 93 million a year. So Newcastle United have got pay 18 million less a year than we do. And then the other one he asked me to look at was Aston Villa. Aston Villa do pay 11 million a year more than us. Now, that is slightly skewed because of because of the money being added on now from the Marcus Rashford and the Asensio wages, right? So
which they don't pay a transfer fee for. They're not paying a transfer fee. So that they save money transfer fee wise, but they pay it wages.
But so Aston Villa, who pay £11 million a year more than we do, £18 million of that a year is purely on Rashford and Asensio, who are on loan. So it's all skewed because they're not actually Aston Villa players yet. So, but do you see what I mean? It's a great topic, Jose. But for me, I would guess, and without having a proper look, I would guess that Spurs pay more wages than everyone in that league, other than Liverpool, Arsenal, City, Chelsea, Villa. I would guess that we're the 6th highest players in that league. So when we're talking Bournemouth, Brighton, Fulham, Forest, it's not a question, is it? It's not a debate. But I agree with him from the point of view, if you want to catch those clubs, and that's where I'll give maximum credit to a Villa. They're trying. They're trying to attract the better caliber of players by offering them bigger money. Now, some people will say it's risky because theirs is their salary to turnover is 93%. If I'm not wrong, and ours is 42%. But they'll be happy to do that all the while they're getting Champions League revenue. Now, obviously, at the moment, they're not in the Champions League. They're still within a touching distance of getting it.
Fifth will get them in, won't they? Fifth will get it this season for them, depending on coefficients.
Yeah. So it's a really interesting conversation. But I think what we've got to do, I think we all agree on this, Ben, is if you keep going and buying players, let's have a look at who we've bought lately, right? Let's have a look at their salaries. All right, Tottenham Hotspur. Chuck a player at me. I'll tell you how much he earns a week.
Oh,
someone we've just bought, by the way.
I can't think. My brain's gone blank. I can't remember anyone signing.
So let me let you know. So
let's go for Kinski. Let's go for Kinski. 21 years of age. How much is Kinski on?
So Anthony Kinski, who's on a contract until 2031, is on £20,000 a week.
Jesus.
Right. So I'll tell you what we do. Let's look at the players we've bought lately, the kids. Right. Yeah. This is what we've done. We've bought in Bergvall, who's on 15 grand a week.
Yeah.
Right. We've bought in Kinski, who's on 20. According to this, Danso's only on 25. I'm not sure I believe that. But Wilson Odobert is on 25 grand a week.
Yeah.
Right. And then the only one that's on big money, you would say relative in football terms, is Archie Gray, who's on 75 grand a week.
Yeah.
So all these youngsters, Yang, I can't see what he's on, but all of these youngsters that we've brought in, when people praise youth projects, be careful what you ask for, but not you, but be careful what you ask for, right? Because if you want youth projects, that's what you're going to do. So on one hand, and this isn't aimed at Jose, on one hand, if we're going to praise the youth projects, right, just remember that what comes with that is paying less wages. So, it's a very interesting conversation.
But saying that, if I was Bergvall, I'd be chuffed on 15 grand a week at 18. If I imagine giving me 15 grand a week at 18, I'd be bloody ecstatic. 15 grand a year at the moment sounds really, really good. But it's fun. Give me 15 grand a week. I'd be very, very happy.
Yeah, look, it's strange, isn't it? Because we sit here as normal human beings. We sit here as normal members of society who go 20 grand a week. Like I'm going, Kinski's only on 20 grand a week. 20 grand a week. Think what you could do in your life. But in football terms, you've got to ask. Spurs have gone out and bought a goalkeeper. We bought Kinski for 20 grand a week. And then when you look at it, I mean, let's have a look. We've got, do you want to have a guess what Vicario's on a week?
Oh, I think it's 45, isn't it? It's something along those lines, 45, 50 grand a week.
He's on 75 grand a week.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. Yeah. Just
to put that in context, Emi Martinez of Aston Villa's on 150. Right?
Yeah.
150. Alisson is on 150 at Liverpool. right? This is where we're at with it, right? This is where we're at. When you look at the clubs that have the top, they're smashing us out the park for wages. The bigger clubs, that's where the problem is, not the lower end.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very interesting. So I'm just gonna sorry, bear with me 1 second. Why can't I find this? Where is it? You message. Sorry. Yeah, so it's a really, really interesting one. And the problem is, I feel like this is what we're gonna keep doing. So you know, when you see these articles where people go, oh, Spurs are interested in Hayden Hackney. I'm just chucking names up. Spurs
Hayden
are
Hackney's
interested
a great name for a footballer.
Brilliant name for a footballer. But why would we be interested in Hayden Hackney, Ben?
He's cheap.
Because he's cheap. And this is the problem. It comes down to money. It always comes down to money. And by the way, people in the chat are going, oh, Savva, we've got the money. It's on Daniel Levy. I mean, you know, I feel like you're preaching to the converted on that one.
Yeah.
You know, you can get good players. You can scout good players for less money. I'm not doubting that. But that only gets you so far. And I want to use an example of that is if we look at Brighton Hove Albion, right? If we look at Brighton, I think they've brought in some really good players, right? Where are we? If we look at Brighton, people like, let's have a look at it, like that young winger they've got, Minte, really good young winger. He's only on 40 grand a week. Yeah. Van Heck, the centre half's only on 30 grand a week. Adingra is on 12.5 grand a week. Let's have a look at Mitoma. When he joined, he was only on 30 grand a week, apparently, and then only got the pay rise to 80.
That's just because Mitoma started his career late because Mitoma made sure he finished it when he was at Japan. He didn't really become a footballer till he was like 22, right, Mitoma, because he was doing his schoolwork. So he was doing his scholarship at the university he was at in Japan. So he started his career late, so he needed to be on higher opening wages, from what I remember.
That's what I'm waiting for, guys. I'm 42. I'm waiting until I finish this job, and then I'm going to become a pro footballer. I'll do it for £1,000 a week. I don't mind.
I'd love £1,000 a week. I'd love £1,000 a week.
Welcome, Kuva. Welcome, Mikhail. How are we doing? Kuva, you look like you just woken up. You got that sexy bed head going on, bed hair.
Yeah, I have insomnia all night. About 7 a.m. I remember was the last time I remember, and then suddenly it's now.
Oh wow! Big up to you, Mikhail, as well. Mikhail, what's the time in Poland? What's the difference?
I'm an hour forward, right? So it's 12 a.m.
Oh, tell us what happened.
You what?
Yeah. Tell us what happened.
I mean, the future boys, Angepostecoglou still has his job.
Nothing too serious today, guys. We're just kind of chewing some fat, really, just about, you know, Sonny saying it's been a bit of a shame that this is how it's looking like it's going to end for Sonny. Talking about what we're going to do in the summer without Europe. Are we going to attract players? It's an interesting time because, Kuva, I'll ask you this. If I'd said to you, you've just woken up, right? And the conversations you're hearing about Spurs across YouTube and platforms, and I said to you, it's 2003. Would you believe me? Like if the way we're talking and the where we are in the league, you would believe me, right? If I said we've gone back 20 years.
I don't remember us being 14th in 2003.
2003. Let's think. We're just about round about sacking Hoddle time, aren't we?
Yeah.
So it's got that kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, it's good. It's good, right? It's nothing's really. We've done a big loop. We've done a big loop.
Yeah. And, spent an awful lot of money, wasted a lot of time, and got one little tin pot to show for it.
Yeah.
Well, did you guys know? I don't know if you saw this the other day, but when after the Spurs United game, they showed on the Sky Sports studio, they showed club spending since the Champions League final that we lost. And did you see where Spurs were in that table? So in the last
second or third, right? After third.
Yeah, we were third in terms of. So it's mad, isn't it? Like, where does all this money go?
That's not the bad part for me. It's the time during when Pochettino was here, how much we spent. The net spend was ridiculously low.
Yeah.
If we'd been the other way round, maybe we'd have bloody won something.
Mm. Yeah, it's madness. Mikhail, it's almost as though my wife is in control of Spurs spending. You know, like when she comes in, I'll go, why is there no money in the joint account? There was loads in there this morning. Oh, well, I did this and then I had to go there and then I bought this. And I kind of feel like with Spurs, it creeps up on us because we get to the end of windows, Mikhail, and people go, oh, Levy's not spent again. When you actually look at it, there's always hundreds of millions going out the door.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest issues that we had in recent years is the fact that we haven't sold anyone for big money other than Kane. Because when you look at clubs like Liverpool or even Chelsea, right? Because people often say that Chelsea has spent like 1.3 billion or whatever, right? But they also recuperated like 600 million, if my mind serves me correctly, in sales, right? They sold Kovacic, they sell this guy, that guy, right? And they actually earn a lot of money. So you look at us, right? And during Pochettino time, I've had of course, like the context was a bit different. Clubs were generally spending less, right, in that time. But I think we invested quite a bit of money, right? It wasn't like we gave no money to him other than, the 1.5 year period, right? But we also sold a lot, right? We sold Walker, we sold other guys, right, for big chunks of money, which made it so that our net spend, especially when you look at net spend, right? Our net spend during Pochettino time is non-existent pretty much. I think it's like 50 million or something, right?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Whereas now we spent a lot of money. As you said, I don't know on what, right? I look at our squad and I'm like, how the hell is this a squad where you invested 700 million in the last 4 years, right? And we have Richarlison and Solanke as our striker options. It's like, I look at this and I'm like, like how and where is this money gone, right? And then the other issue I mentioned, that we don't really sell players other than Kane, right? Actually, when you look at it, selling Skip for, I think it was like 25 million or something, right? It's one of our bigger sales in the recent times. It's mad if you think about it.
It is. Just quickly, I saw this comment. I thought this was quite interesting. Nathan, big up to you, whoever you are. I do feel like this is very much a Spursy comment. When we talk about we're building the right wage structure, I feel like if Kuva and I were having this conversation 20 years ago, I was hearing things from Spurs fans like this then of we want to do it the right way. We want to be ethical. We want to, it hasn't got us anywhere, Nathan. And if you look at two of the biggest wage structures in the country are Liverpool and Man City. And I hate to break it to you, but Liverpool and Man City have won everything. In the last 7 or 8 years, they've won Champions Leagues, Premier Leagues, FA Cups, World Club Cups, League Cups. So when we're saying it doesn't create a team, it just creates egos. Yeah, guys, I mean, Kuva is I understand.
You could also look at other examples like Man United, couldn't you, and say it's failed them. But there's there's good points and bad points with each argument, isn't there? So
sure,
you'd say overall,
on a lower
you spend
wage
the money
structure
on top players, you've got a much better chance of winning, haven't you?
Yeah.
Absolutely. As I said, like if I look at these are the Liverpool players, right, on over 100k a week, right? This is just Liverpool. I hate that. Okay, so Mo Salah, Van Dijk, Arnold, Alexander Arnold, Robertson, McAllister, Alisson, Gravenberch, Jota, Gakpo, Nunes, Chiesa, Szoboszlai. I hate to break it to you, but if you wanted to give me those players, I'm not going to complain about any of their egos. I don't know about you guys. I'm taking all of those players. So I get what you're saying, Nathan, but I feel like this is very much football's gone past this now for me.
Yeah.
Football's gone past this. Can we do it the right way?
Yeah.
Is that right?
I think, right, the only reason I would accept us lowering the wage bill right now is if we are trying to, offer bigger contracts to our already existing players, right? I think Arsenal kind of did a bit of the same thing with their clear out, right? If you look at Arteta's tenure when they started, they got rid of Ozils and Aubameyang, Lacazette, right? All those guys on higher wages, brought in a lot of youngsters, and then to those youngsters that developed, they offered bigger wages, and then they started bringing in players on bigger wages, right? So right now you look at their wage structure, and I think they have something like 16 players over 100k and like 6 or 7 over 200k, right? So
Who's that? Sorry,
Arsenal, right?
Oh, Arsenal. I'll get
Yeah.
them. I'll get them. Yep.
Yeah. So I think, listen, the longer I look at what this club does, the longer I think they really try to mimic what Arsenal did. And I just have a feeling they just try to lower the wages right now, right? So they have more of a wage budget to try to convince Van de Ven and Romero and other guys to bigger contracts, right? Because there were, like, there are some rumors that apparently we are trying to make Romero our biggest earner, right, in the club. Which, listen, whether we debate whether Romero deserves it or not is a different thing, right? But this is the only way I would accept how low our wage bill is, right? Savva, you mentioned it already, right? I'm not necessarily talking about like the general sum that we spend, because it's like 111 million, I think you said, right? But it's also the percentage of the revenue that we bring in, right? Which is the lowest for us in the league, right? Because when you look at Villa, they spent like 10 million more than us on wages, but it's like 60% more of the revenue that goes on wages, right? Which they are on the other end of spectrum, spending close to 100% of your revenue on wages is a bit dangerous if you don't reach your targets, right? But what we do is super safe. We don't have to be this safe with the wage spending, right?
I think the reason we're lowering wage is not necessarily a football. I think the reason we're lowering the wage bill is we're trying to make ourselves as a business more attractive for potential investors in the infrastructure projects, the hotels, the NFL projects that are being built, the development of the old Woodyard that they're doing I believe it's the old Woodyard. It's one of the old yards that's around Tottenham that they bought. That's the reason I think they're lowering. I don't think they're lowering the wage for football reasons. They're lowering it to make us better for investment. It's whether they want to actually sell. It's whether they actually get the, because what is it? The stadium's been built 6 years now. It's unbelievable how long this stadium's been built, and it still doesn't seem as homely as the old White Hart Lane. We're looking for loads of money. We want more money than it's a fit. Like, we wanted the highest ever naming rights deal on a stadium. We want the highest this. We want the highest that. That is because we're trying to make ourselves more profitable, not as more of a football club.
Albie, don't worry. By the way, I have a joint account, but I also have a Richard Savva only account. Don't you worry about that. All the sensible purchases are out of the joint account, unless it's her choice. It's funny, when I go, I'm going to buy this with a joint account, you don't need that. When she comes home with loads of bags, I'm like, hey, hang on, what, we need this? Anyway, by the way, I just checked Arsenal. Arsenal have 18 players, 1-8 on over 100 grand a week. And just to give you their actual numbers, they pay 3.3 million a year. Sorry, that's a lie. 3.3 million a week in wages, which works out to 172.6 million a year. 172.6, and their lowest paid players, two of their better players this season, Ethan Nwaneri's on 6 grand a week, and Miles Lewis Skelly apparently is on 4 grand a week.
I'd love 4 grand a week. I'd love 4 grand a week. I'll take that.
I'm pretty sure they're about to get their contracts utterly bolstered from Arsenal. But I mean, Coover, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's a shame that football's got so much about money rather than the love of the game anymore. And in one of my WhatsApp groups yesterday, Coover, someone put in a chat that said, football's just so different now. Like, it's just changed beyond recognition. You know, the days of like Brian Clough going around someone's house and saying, you want to come and join me at Nottingham Forest or Derby or whatever it is. You know, now it's all so political. And has football been a bit spoilt? And not in a good way, not as in like a rich kid getting stuff. I mean, like, has it been spoiled?
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of us have said this for years. The introduction of the Premiership was a terrible thing for football. All the money coming into it, that Sky sponsorship deal for the TV deals and everything. it's just inflated wages, inflated egos. It seems to be more soulless, the game, to me. I think it's not even just the money that's doing it nowadays. This reliance on systems and formations and rigid ways of playing and things. We talked about it before, haven't we, Savva, about the Mavericks missing from the game nowadays. Whereas you go back it seems like an age ago, doesn't it? We had the likes of Haji and people and Stoichkovs and players like that out there. You wouldn't expect them to go to them and say, "Oh, you've got to do chasing back. You've got to close down people like this, like that. You've got to be in this rigid defensive setup immediately. If you lose the ball, chase it, hang it down." I think in a way, Barcelona kind of broke that trend because they had top quality players with the flair and the work rate, which is what made them such an amazing team. But I think generally speaking now, you're looking at, even as fans, you know what to expect from certain people. You know, this manager's going to play in this formation, this style of play. It's not really going to vary from it too much. I think Postecoglou is the ultimate for that. We know exactly what it's going to be like each week, bar injuries. So I think the game in general is losing its spectacle. Too much football, saturation of football all the time. Whereas, you know, I got so old now that I look at the 80s as the good old days. There was gaps between football at the weekend and then the next match the next weekend. You didn't have TV coverage all the way through the week. It was special if you had a European night. It was unusual. But now, even the FA Cup final, we don't have the build-up anymore you used to.
Bring back Saint and Greavesy.
Yeah, exactly. Saint and Greavesy, flick over the Football Focus for before that.
Let me ask you then, guys. And Mikhail, I'll bring you in it. Look, Hoover is absolutely bang on. For me, what I find funny is now that players are being judged for what they don't do. This is what I find really funny about this era. So when you've got a player, if we use someone at our club, for example, I use someone from another club. If you look at James Maddison, we're always talking about what James Maddison doesn't do tracking back, right? Back in the day, Hoover, people would have looked and gone, really good playmaker, right? Yeah. Now it's all judged on, but if you look at the ground covered, blah, 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 it's like, okay, sure. But, you know, now centre-halves don't seem to be judged on, can they defend? Centre-halves are judged on, but he's good on the ball. He can bring it out into midfield. And Romero is the example of that. Because Romero can pass a ball, we all go, could he be a number 6? No. If you want a number 6, buy a bloody number 6. Yeah. And then the biggest example of this in world football for me, it's got to be this guy. It's got to be Erling Haaland. You've got an absolute goal machine that is breaking records left, right, and centre. And all I ever hear is, yeah, we don't do anything but score goals. You're like, what?
It's the currency of the game, Savva.
Cooper, can you imagine back in the day anyone saying about Gary Lineker? Yeah, but he don't do anything but put the ball in the net. I mean,
true.
The world's gone mad.
On the other hand,
Jimmy Greaves. Imagine saying to Jimmy Greaves, well, he's not that very good in the air.
Yeah, exactly. But there is the other side of it, though. I look at the Man City team and I think I don't like this team as much as the one that a few years back. I'd take Aguero over Haaland every day. It's just because I think he's a better footballer. Haaland is just a machine, though, isn't he?
Yeah, I suppose it depends what you want. And I saw an interview last year with Pep where they questioned him on, you know, there's been a lot of controversy that, you know, Haaland's got, I think he'd gone like 3 games without a goal, you know, like a complete crisis. Like he's got 3 games without a goal and, you know, reports saying that he's not tracking back and he's not doing this. You know, will you be looking at another profile of striker? Then Pep turned around and went, hang on, when we won the league a couple of years ago without a striker, you all told me I needed a striker. I go and buy a striker. Now you're telling me I don't need a striker. I need a workhorse. I mean, Mikhail, it is crazy, isn't it? How football has gone. It just feels like it's all very convoluted when it's still a bit of grass with 2 goals at either end.
Yeah, generally, I think the football has changed a lot over like past 2 decades, right? I think it's a lot more about team play and structures and positioning rather than actual 1v1 skill, which makes it like this makes it less appealing to the eye, right? You have less 1v1s.
yes.
You have like, even if you want to compare the skill of the wingers from now with like 2 decades ago, right? I get that 2 decades ago there were more like accomplished players that were better at dribbling, right? But there are much less chances to actually dribble one-on-one in today's football, right? Because as soon as you get the ball on the wing, you get, doubled up on by a midfielder, right? Teams move in shapes and they basically try to nullify the danger by numbers rather than by skill, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Which is why I made the point even, right, that it's really hard to compare, at least for me, it's really hard to compare footballers of now compared to footballers of past age, because it's a much different game, right? Like,
See,
listen,
look, Mikhail, can I give you an example?
Yeah,
Let me give you an example of how modern football fans talk, right? Look at the state of this, right? Sorry, Savva, what's Haaland done this season when City are struggling? Hasn't Erling Haaland got 20 league goals in like 24 games or something? When did that become? When did this become a bad? Hang on, I'll tell you what. Let me bloody check this.
As I said before, Savva, goals are the currency of the realm when it comes to football.
But like this guy saying he's a terrible footballer, he's not a terrible footballer. Anyone that watched him in Germany knows he's not a terrible footballer. He's being asked to do a different job. Erling Haaland, that terrible year he's having, he's got 19 goals, right? 19 in 25 in the Premier League. Right?
Oh, that's terrible, mate. He should have 70 already.
19, 25 in the league. In the Champions League, do you want to know how many goals do you think he's got in the Champions League this season?
Like 4 or 5, right?
I'm going to say 7.
7, Kuva?
12.
He's got 8 goals in 9 Champions League appearances, right? So if we add that together, if I'm not wrong, that's 34 games and 27 goals. 19 league games, 19 league goals.
How many goals did he get in the League Cup and the FA Cup so far?
He's not played in the from what I can see, he's not played in the league and FA Cup. So he's got 27 goals in 34 games. And we've got people out here giving it. But what's he done when City are struggling? But the key thing there, Matt, is City have been struggling. Not Erling Haaland. It's not Erling Haaland FC. But, it's Man City.
But Matt would be the first person. Sorry, Matt. Matt would be the first person to complain about injuries when we talk about the Tottenham results.
Yes.
Look how many injuries Man City have had this season. They've lost Rodri, Kovacic. Ruben Diaz has been out, and
Stones,
Ake. Walker's been injured.
Haaland.
De Bruyne. How many injuries have City had? So you can't say one thing, but then say the same thing with an. You got to have a rounded argument.
Also, I don't know what people's expectations are, right, of players. Like, what do you expect Erling Haaland to do in the situation that City found themselves in, right? Is he supposed to play a DM, pick up the ball from center back and run through a whole team, right? It's not going to happen, right? There are like a few players in history of football that could run through a whole team, right? Like Messi, Maradona, and Ronaldinho, and who else, right? Like, he doesn't have that skill. You shouldn't. Yeah, like there are limitations on players. There are limitations on what a single player can do in a game, right? This is something that I actually try to defend Kane on in certain occasions, right? Where he was getting flamed for not affecting games, right? Where he was getting lambasted because he didn't win a game on his own, right? Where the whole team was absolute dog poo around him, right? And people expected him to just carry 10 bodies on his back, right? And do everything by himself. And don't get me wrong, there were games where he actually did that, right? There were games where he actually had the capability of winning the game on his own, right? But it's not like you can do this every single week, right? And especially when you look at a player like Haaland, right? He is a fox in the box striker, right? You play this guy in behind, or you chuck a ball at him in the air and he tries to fight for it, right? But in a situation where there is no danger from any other part of the City team, right? You just have to focus on Erling Haaland. You put two center backs in front of him, right? Sorry, around him, and a center defensive mid in front of him. And what is he supposed to do? He's isolated against 3 players because they don't have to care about the rest, right? It's like,
But with that, Mikhail, he's playing a different role at Dortmund. When Dortmund
yes,
played,
of course.
they played a very different system. Like
Yes.
one of my favourite clips of Haaland was when he was playing for Dortmund and he broke from a corner, and you just saw how freakishly fast the bloke is. He is a freak. How quick he is.
Do you know the funny thing is, Ben? The funny thing is, as I said, like anybody who watched him play in Germany will tell you that he played very differently. He played very differently at Man City. He doesn't need to come back and do all of this fancy stuff because he's got De Bruyne, Foden, Silva, Savio, Grealish, now Marmoush. He doesn't need to do this stuff. At Dortmund, he didn't have that plethora of talent around him. Yeah. At Dortmund, he dropped deeper, got the ball spun. And like Foxy hit the nail on the head. Like, he didn't even score. But you watch the highlights of that game. Haaland's involved in everything, being a nuisance. Yeah. And this is what I don't think people understand. We'll move on from him, right? We'll move on from him.
I've got one thing I was going to add to it, actually. Just
go for it, mate. Go for it.
I think Haaland struggles because, in people's viewpoints, because of his figures. His goal-scoring figures are phenomenal, which puts him up into that bracket with the likes of Ronaldo and Messi.
Right.
But if you compare him as a footballer with those two, there isn't a comparison.
Sure. Yeah.
So we're talking about
he's a goal scorer, right?
That's we're talking about the pinnacle of a goal scorer rather than the pinnacle of a all-round skilled footballer.
Yeah.
So I think he struggles in that respect. It kind of weirdly fits in with what that infamous quote from Alex, Mr. Box Office, doesn't it? He's just a better than average John Carew. If you look at it in those terms, he's not wrong. He's a much better than average John Carew.
No, I don't think he gets enough credit for what he does off the ball. I genuinely think that he's not a silky player. Like, I suppose he's not like Messi. He's not there to dribble past 5 players, but you know, he's a robot up front. And by the way, guys, in 372 games for club and country, 372 games for club and country, how many goals do we reckon Erling Haaland scored to date?
300.
320.
320? Mikhail?
Yeah, 320. I think we did it last show. I think it's like close to 1 goal a game, right?
He's got 310 in 372 games. That's an 83.3% goal rate. He's got the best ever. He's got the best ever goal rate in the Premier League, right? And we've still got people going, but terrible footballer, like terrible. What does he do other than his 20 league goals or 19 league goals? What does he do? What does he
sack him? Sack him.
Get rid of him. Sell him.
No
and go and bring
Solanke,
someone
is
in.
he?
No, he's Tottenham level. Get him to Tottenham. Sell it to Tottenham.
Do you know what's funny, right? This is what absolutely cracks me up about this is we've got fans that would say, if we move this conversation back to Tottenham, we've got fans, if Dominic Solanke had 19 league goals by the 18th of February, we'd have fans going, this is a world-class centre-forward. Yeah. What a player. He should be in line for player of the year. When it's Haaland, it's so expected of Haaland now that 19 in 26 is seen in 25 is seen as a bad thing. Yeah. My mind is
modern
blown
football
by
is
2025.
I hate modern football. Football. Imagine what Spurs fans would think about Jermaine Defoe, who basically was offside 70 times a game, but then he'd pick the ball up and smash it in the back of the net. And that's all I want Jermaine Defoe back. Bring me back Jermaine Defoe. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see these what's it called, stat padding player. I actually quite like Dom Solanke, but he's a stat padder. He runs about a lot. He looks a bit busy, but he doesn't score. He doesn't do what Jermaine Defoe does, which is get you off your seat, get the ball 30, 35 yards out, turn a defender and smash it in the back of the net. That's what I want to see.
There's somebody brought up the comment and it made me think of it immediately. And they said about Matt Letizia, what sort of footballer he was, and he wouldn't fit into today's game.
Yeah.
Yet at the same time, crazily, they had Ian Dowie, remember him? And he probably would fit into today's football.
Ian Dowie.
Bring back Ian Dowie.
Big lump who worked hard and held the ball up. That's
I was
Solanke,
watching Coover, I was watching Premier League Years the other day, and I'm not sure which season it was, but it was one of in the 90s. And Southampton beat Man United, like it was like 4-3 at the Dell. I remember the old Dell. I don't know if anyone's been to the Dell. Have you been to the Dell, Coover?
Yeah, many times.
And, oh my God, where the roof is like slanting, and you're like, oh my, it was funny because I was watching it, and they had Matt Letizia and they had Egil Ostenstad up front. You remember him?
Yep.
Egil Ostenstad. They had like Franny Benali at fullback. Remember old Francis Benali?
Top like Franny Benali. Yeah.
Franny Benali. It's absolutely brilliant. Listen, Matt, just listen, dude, stop it. Not every time Erling Haaland's name is mentioned do you have to mention Harry Kane. I'll go back to what I said before. At 24, I'll tell you what, you of all people that are belittling Haaland, now go and look at what Harry Kane had done at the age of 24. You would have been roasting him. You would have been roasting him.
Yeah.
He'd only been in the team for a year at that point, Kane.
Exactly. Yeah. This is why people seem to think that Kane didn't evolve as he got older. Kane, the Harry Kane now isn't the Harry Kane that broke into the Spurs team. He's adapted, he's changed, he's molded.
Mourinho made the Harry Kane of now. Mourinho saw that. Mourinho needed a centre attacking midfielder because Eriksen was leaving. And he saw that Harry Kane worked in it in training and said, you do it. I'll put Son up front. I'll put you as basically the number 10, the Sheringham role, and we're doing that. And that's what...
Kane was much more of a killer number 9, right? When he started the career.
Yeah, he
right?
was.
Like he was having 30 goal seasons, right? Whereas, I mean, he had 20 goal seasons at the end, right? And like 15 assists. So you can even look purely at the numbers and see the difference, right? But even if you watch his highlights, right? Like he was much younger, he was more dynamic, he took riskier shots, right? How many long-range screamers did Harry Kane actually score when he started his career, right? I mean, started his career when he broke into Poch's team, right? He was slapping balls from like 20 meters, whereas in his later stages, he was more about the headers and the tap-ins and the tricky in-box play, right? Rather than just actually doing like young strikers work, right? Young strikers have that arrogance about them.
It's because
right?
he learned the tricks as well, didn't he? He learned the tricks, but the goal that represents Harry Kane as a younger player is actually one of the last games at White Hart Lane, the 2-1 game where we came back from. Awesome. And when it came back in, and he basically did the Alan Shearer head. It was coming that way. He turned his head and he hit it back the other way. Yeah. That was Harry Kane. He was more like Shearer, and he's molded himself into more like Sheringham as he's got older because he was never a pacey player. He couldn't. Alan Shearer was more of an athletic player than Teddy Sheringham was because Sheringham never really had speed, but he had. My God, was that guy quick in the brain? He molded himself more into Sheringham.
But don't you think it's important, guys, that if we're going to judge play, look, first of all, sometimes I don't think you need to judge every player against somebody else. But if you do judge players against each other, isn't it important that you let both careers pan out? Like, it's really difficult to turn around and go, oh, Harry Kane's 30, what is he, 31 now? 31, right? And he's about to win his first trophy in his career at 31, right? You've got Erling Haaland, who's done everything in world football, right? Other than national, but I wouldn't expect his country to do anything national-wise. He's done everything in football by the age of 24. Like, surely you wait for Erling Haaland to have those 7 years to catch up with Harry Kane. Yeah. And we go, right, by the end of their careers, look at what both players have done. But
great example for that as well, Alan Shearer. I've brought this one up a few times. His first, 123 games or something like that?
Yes. Yeah.
He'd only scored about 14 goals, something like that. No, a
Yeah.
bit more than that, sorry. It was about a goal every 5 games. Same with Thierry Henry. You have to look at the whole career, because at the start, the figures are not impressive.
And also,
So,
Cooves, Shearer won his first Premier League title basically quite early on in his career. It was his second club, because he started at Southampton and then he went to Blackburn. He was a goal machine at Newcastle, but what did he do?
Do you know one funny thing? When people talk about Shearer and the goal record as well, guys, I love a chat about football. I love a general chat about football. It's so much better than us going, should Ange leave? Should Levy be sacked?
Yeah.
When you look at Alan Shearer, people always go, well, he's top of the goal scoring chart, but I think it's like 40 goals he's top by, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's like 41.
Yeah.
But people seem to forget that Alan Shearer played before the Premier League started, so he's actually got more top flight goals than just in the Premier League. I don't know if people out there realize, I'm not saying you guys, but I don't know if people realize that it wasn't like his first year as a footballer playing in the Premier League. So
he played at Southampton. When did Southampton move to St Mary's? That was was Shearer still playing at the old Dell when he started?
No.
St Mary's.
Shearer would have been at the Dell. He wouldn't have been at St Mary's. He would have been at Dell.
He left before then, because that was 94, wasn't it? He joined.
When did Southampton moved to St Mary's?
Because
2001.
Okay, so it would have been the old Dell before. So Shearer learned on these terrible pitches and terrible little stadiums. Before moving to Blackburn. He won his only trophy of his career very early on in his career, and he didn't win anything after that.
And then he was too loyal. If we like, it's that famous story with Shearer, guys, isn't it? That he had the chance to join Man United.
Yeah, and he went home. He went home instead.
And
he always have respect. He always have respect for that. But imagine if he was playing it, because when did he join Newcastle? It was 90.
He joined Newcastle in 95?
95, 96, wasn't it? So
when did Shearer join Newcastle? 96.
Yeah, so he would have been playing with Sheringham at Man United and Jesus.
He would have won everything. But listen, these things happen. Here's a good quiz question. By the way, big up to you, Phil P. Really appreciate that. I've got a question that brings us back to more of the modern era in a second. Before we do, guys and girls, there's over 400 of you in here. Only 153 likes, which is absolutely shocking. Come on, guys. Can we at least get that to 250? And if anyone hasn't subscribed, please do. It's like we flew to 16,000 and now it's like I'm in treacle trying to get to 17K. Come on, guys. We're about 370 away from that. So please subscribe if you haven't already. Question here. Big up to Phil P. This is a good one, actually, from Nathan. He said, would bringing Kane back, I'll start with you, Mikal, would bringing Kane back next January with the buyback clause improve us moving forward or stunt the next group coming through? It's a good question.
Easy for me. 100% getting back.
Yeah.
You're talking about one of the world's best players, and we're talking about a club that's starting to bring through some young players now. How much they could learn from him, just training day to day, seeing what he does on match days, seeing his professionalism, seeing his techniques, how much advice and wisdom he can pass on to them.
Yeah,
I'd use him as the stepping stone for the next group of youngsters as he's seeing out his career. But I think Kane's going to go on for a few years, in my opinion. He's never relied on pace, has he? So as long as he keeps himself fairly fit, he'll go well into his 30s.
Yeah.
So I think it would be 100% a good move, but not with this style of football. He can't keep up with the pace and the running.
I knew there was a caveat. I knew Cooper had a butt. I knew there was a butt coming. Yeah.
You've got to use Kane to his strengths, haven't you? Otherwise, why bother? But you could say the same with Haaland as well. If you're not going to fling crosses.
Andrew would play Kane as a number 8, and people would be saying he don't run around a lot.
Wait,
he's Harry Kane, mate. I don't want him running around. I want him in the box. I want him smashing balls in. That's what I want to see.
I think the issue is, right, that I would love to see Kane back, right? whenever he wants to come back, I would welcome him with open arms, right? And also to tackle the part of the question about stunting the development, right? Even if you ignore the knowledge that he can pass on to those like younger players, right? You also have to look at the fact that we have this young crop of players, but I don't think any of them are good enough now to lead the line, right? It's not like next season onwards, Will Langshire will be a starting striker for us, right? And he will keep playing every single game because he's this good, right? So it's not like you are necessarily taking away the minutes from them, right? Because like Solanke will play there anyways, right? But if we had Kane and Solanke as a partnership duo, right, you could still find minutes for youngsters. They will play roughly the same amount of minutes, right? But the knowledge that they gain from having a guy like Kane around, right, is absolutely massive, right? All those little tricks and all those little things that he could tell them, that he could show them, right? The professionalism and all that stuff, right? Like the ultimate professional, I think, was the media, band-aid that they stuck with Kane, right? Ultimate professional. So I would love to have him back, right? I think he immediately takes us back to, I don't know, back to where, like probably back to being a top 4 team at least, right?
Can I ask you though, Mikal? I want to look.
but-
And again, this isn't for me. This is nothing to do with Harry Kane's ability as a footballer. For me, it's more about where are we as a club. And there's a lot of comments in the chat about would he want to join this mess? Could he play, like Hoover's alluded to it, this style of football? Would Harry Kane's hamstrings stand up to what Postecoglou wants? It's a where are you with all that, Mikal? Like, if you're Kane and you win let's say you win the league this year with Bayern Munich and you've won your trophy, you've ticked off your bucket list. Is your first thought, I know, I'll go and join that mess at Spurs, which is what he left in the first place? It's worse than when he left.
Oh, so definitely, right?
Why would he join? I suppose if we look at it from that side, why would he join?
So this was something I was about to get on, right? First of all, I have to like completely agree with Kuva, right? This style of play doesn't suit him, right? This is my biggest like issue with Ange, right? Is the fact that he isn't using the players that we have to the best of their ability, right? I think we can all identify at least a couple of players that we think should be played in a different way, and their strengths lie in a different like part of the pitch or different style of play, and he's just trying to shoehorn those players, right? Off the top of my head, like Poro, Udogi, Maddison probably, right? And maybe one or two others. And I think Kane would be the same, right? For me, it's clear to see with the fact that we brought in Solanke, right? And how we are using him. I think like Ange wants his center forward to be the pressing trigger, right? He wants his center forward to press a lot.
The sacrificial lamb.
Yeah, basically be not only like drop deep and spray the ball, but also run around a lot and pressure the center backs or the goalkeeper, right? And Harry Kane right now doesn't have he's just not fast enough to do that role, right? I'm not saying he doesn't have the stamina to do it for like 60 minutes or something, right? But do you really want to waste 60 minutes of Kane on the pitch, on him running around like a headless chicken, trying to press the center backs, right? No, you want him in the box. You want him, doing all the magic that he was doing under Conte and Jose, right? So, what in that essence, if we have Postecoglou next season, right? What's the point of bringing Kane, right? Like he was still slapped like 20 goals a season, right? He's that good of a striker.
It's a new project.
Yeah, youth project, right? But it's not.
Most importantly, Harry. One of the things I think people seem to realise, Harry Kane was really he basically was on first name basis with the chairman. If he ever wanted anything, the chairman would bend over backwards for him because he was the star boy of the club. If Harry Kane saw the way we defended and the way we play football and the way we have injuries, he'd be the first person on Levy's door. Sack him, mate, and he'd be gone.
Also, can we look at the little elephant in the room, right? And by little elephant, I mean the great big massive elephant in the room that is Harry Kane's on £400,000 a week at Bayern Munich. So he's on 400. Let me just double check this. Harry Kane's on 480,000 euros per week, which I've just
400.
Google's telling me it's just shy of 400k a week.
Yeah.
That's 25 million euros a year. I mean, if there's so much to add to it, right? Like, do you bring in Harry Kane? Do you suddenly, you're going to try and work that out, aren't you, Mikhail?
Isn't it like 40 million a year euros, right? It's 50 times
I'm just going by apology. They do all the clubs and all that. Look, either way, 400k a week.
Oh, no, I'm chatting shit. Sorry.
That's okay. Don't worry. It's all good. I mean, you've got Harry Kane. One, he'd have to take what? Half
Nah,
of
I'd
that.
pay him those wages. I'd pay him 400 grand a week.
If it was to me, I would pay him whatever he wants.
Give him the money. I think Levy would give him the money. I think
no,
he would give him the
Levy's
money.
not giving him 400 grand a week. He's not. Come on. Surely we know this by now.
I think key is a special circumstance.
Oh,
Savva, I actually kind of have to agree with Ben, because I think that depending on how much fire is under Levy's ass, right? Because we know that he likes to do those like hero things, right? Like he did with Conte, where everything is going to shit and the fan base gets on his back, right? He then tries to, get back on good terms with the fan base by doing something grand, right? And listen, the buzz around the place, if he brought in Harry Kane back, right? Like this would clear his slate again, right? Like, let's be honest about it. So, I mean, with a lot of the fan base, I'm not saying everyone, not me, not you, not Stel, right? Not Ben, and not other like YouTubers that we hang around with, right? And people like that. But I think for the general, like average fan, getting Kane back would be a massive thing, right?
Sure.
Also, Mikhail, you need to follow the new trend.
Sales.
When you agree with someone for the first time, you got to say, "Don't get used to it."
Yeah.
Don't get used to it.
Don't get used to it, mate. Don't get used to it.
But the thing is, the way I look at it is, and by the way, listen, if you said to me right now, is Harry Kane's going to come back, but we're talking about next January, right? I believe the clause kicks in. So we're talking another year further down the line to where we are now, right? Mid-season. By then, Harry Kane's going to be, 32 going on 33?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask the question, aren't we just, we're not talking about him joining the football club right now. If we buy him in a year and a half's time, aren't we then just going really far backwards? Aren't we doing what we did with Bale when we sold Bale, then replaced him with a lesser version of Bale? We did it with Sheringham back in the day, Kuva, didn't we? We sold Sheringham to Man United. Brought back an older version.
Savva, coming backwards was better. We were better we were better.
Ultimately, replace Sheringham with Sheringham, replace Bale with Bale, replace Kane with Kane.
Klinsmann came back, didn't he, as well?
Yeah,
exactly.
I've got no doubt next year we'll be buying Luka Modric at the age of about 41.
I would still have Luka Modric. I would have Luka Modric at 40, doing what you said before, because you'd have him in the dressing room and you'd go to Archie Gray and you say, "Listen here, Archie, you sit with him. Look what he does. He's 40 years of age, but he's coming on in Champions League games and being the best player on the pitch."
Luka Modric at the age of 40 playing Ange ball. I mean, I feel like we've got to take these things into account here. I've got no doubt in the changing room would be amazing, but we've got 19-year-olds that can't keep their hamstrings safe.
I think Modric is a big enough maverick. We're like, I'm not doing that shit.
It's just not going to be worth signing him just for Champions League game. Well, we're not even in it, so it doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah.
I think the thing with Kane's wages, though, you've also got to look at. I mean, basically, despite what I think of Daniel Levy, he's not a complete idiot. So he's going to have plans for how to generate money from Kane being here. So he'll have to weigh it up against that, all the extra sponsorship and shirt sales and everything. So there probably is a figure that he'd be prepared to go to. If I was going to guess, I'd say if he had, Kane's obviously going to have to drop his wages if he goes when he leaves Bayern. Surely he's not going to go up again in wages.
Sure.
So if he did come down to say mid 300, 350 a week, I could imagine us doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, listen,
you know,
you're all better than me. I can't see it in any way, shape, or form. Listen, I've got no problem with Kane coming back, but I don't want it to be under this manager. I don't want it to be under this manager at all, and I don't want it to be with these absolutely horrible, wide open tactics. Because then we're going to be what we're going to be saying to him. Oh, well, Kane's not getting back. Kane's not tracking back. Well, yeah, because he's about 32, 33. You know what I mean? And he's a striker, but it's an interesting one because lots of people are saying that he would want to come back. And guys, let's remove our Spurs hats now. If you're Harry Kane, remove your Spurs hat, right? Forget how much you'd love him here. If you're Harry Kane and Harry Kane's agent, surely if the call comes, you're going, haven't we been there and done that? Like, don't we go for an easy life somewhere after Bayern? Don't we go and play for Inter Miami with Lionel Messi and Busquets?
I would love to see that.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Messi and Kane, I want to see that.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean?
That.
Or do you think the sentimental pull is enough? Because for me, I think that I think I'd be disappointed in him if he came back. I'd love it for us as fans, but I'd be disappointed in him as a player if he chose to leave and then 2 years later go, I'm going to join that mess again. I'd be really disappointed in his mindset. Just me. It's just me.
It depends. Kane is a family man. He'll do what's best for his family. I don't see him going to the Saudi League. I don't think that suits him as a bloke in terms of schooling his kids. The only clubs I can see him go, I can only see him either coming back to England or going to into Miami, like you said. I think him and Beckham would be really good mates. I think they would be really good together when Messi eventually retires. And Kane loves the NFL. I think Kane has already said, I would like to be a kicker. I think Kane could be a kicker in the NFL. He could do it. He could seriously do it because kickers are 40 in the NFL. I think he could do it. So I think he will look at all the potential and he will do what is best for him and his family because he is a family man. And that's why we love Kane. The ultimate professional, as Mikhail said earlier. He is the ultimate family man as well. No trouble, no controversies. He's just a man that's been with his girlfriend since high school. He's got 4 lovely children and he'll do what's best for them. He will do what is best for them.
There is a part of me that wants to believe that he... Listen, when you watch him, when you listen to him and when you watch him in the interviews, right? I still think there is love for the club.
He
in
loves
him.
Tottenham. He is born and bred Tottenham. I know the Arsenal fans are going to say, "Well, it was no, he's not. He is Mr. Tottenham," and that was the reason he left because he saw that Tottenham was going. It's almost like Keith Birkinshaw, and Kane is sort of this generation's Keith Birkinshaw that he loved Tottenham so much that he had to go away.
Yeah, I think it would actually need those sort of special circumstances though for him to come back, wouldn't it? It would be the likes of, say, Pochettino came back and there was big spending happening. So as an actual proof that we're actually going for it with Pochettino. And then you have a little word with Kane. Would you like to come back? Maybe he might. But history suggests it's dead in the water, and those wages will be prohibitive. But never rule it out entirely. There's always that one special circumstance. I agree with what you said earlier, Ben. When Kane is a special circumstance for the club, because I think the lift it would give the entire club, not just not just the first team, would be massive.
Yeah. As I said, I would love him back, right? And as you boys said, right, he's a special circumstance, right? And also maybe in his own mind, right, where he's like nearing the end of the career, right? He might go, I would fancy, getting back to that stadium again and playing for them and whatever, right? And then maybe he would accept a bit of a lower wage, right? I'm not saying he will go to 100K a week or something stupid like that, right? But you get the point. There is part of me that wants to believe, but from like logical point of view, if you want to look at it purely from like logical point of view, as I said, it's really dead in the water, right?
Yeah, look, sorry about that. I really had to take that call. Yeah, look, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, for me, I'm still all about bringing back David Ginola, and that guy's had a
Damn
heart attack.
right.
So
Damn
I'm
right.
all about bringing back Ginola. Big up to Rob Frank, who's become a channel member. Thank you so much, Rob. I promise next week I will get to the the members only show. I will do. Sorry, it's been a bit tough lately. I've trying to balance doing enough to make this pay my bills, and with Frank as well. It's been a real rough few weeks. So apologies to everyone. Mark, I think we answered that right. Would Kane playing a slightly deeper role if he came back? I think he'd have to, because no one's going to create for him in this system, are they? Mari from Tottenham away, very generous, has said Levy wouldn't give himself 400k a week. I fear for Kane's hamstrings. Big up the panel. Yeah, listen, it might be one last throw at it. Can you imagine a Poch Kane double announcement? Our fan base would clean out the entire world for Kleenex, wouldn't it?
Yes,
there'd be a shortage of Kleenex tissues across the world.
Especially Bobby Kane. Especially
oh
Bobby Kane.
And
well,
think about
the ground
Cousins.
sponsor sorted out then, isn't it?
Yeah, the Kleenex Arena.
Yes.
The Kleenex Arena, somewhere where you never, funnily, have clean sheets. Big up to you, Mari. Really appreciate that. Bella says, Savva, this is from my daughter. I told her about Frank. She loves dogs and asked me to spend her pocket money for you, to spend it on Frank for treats. Bella, that is very, very sweet. She didn't need to do that. Trust me, Frank is getting all sorts of food that he was never allowed to eat before he was given his diagnosis. And he's in good spirits, just struggling a little bit. He's just struggling a little bit to anyway. Yeah, but thank you very much, Bella. I really appreciate that. And if my wife and I cry anymore, trust me, I've never cried so much in my life. I look at him and go, oh God, look. It's like watching Tottenham defend. Big up to you, Bella. I really do appreciate that. So thank you very much. Just want to get back to roll this back to the beginning before Mikal and Kuva joined. I thought this was quite an interesting comment from Finn. He said, big up to you, Finn. He said, Son has been such a servant for this club that the choice of whether he should leave should be his to make and his alone. Yeah. Guys, I want to discuss this. I also want to chuck a little bit on the end of this and say, whilst I get the sentiment, aren't we also at the same time doing what we always do and being far too sentimental rather than acting like a club with ambition? If that's the notion, surely as a club now we go, right, we're going to sell you, son. Yeah. Surely, I don't know. That's my opinion. What do you guys make of it?
For me, easy decision when players of his caliber that served us so well. And that's, are they going to carry on with a role at the club after their playing days? Yeah. If they're going to go on to, say, a coaching role, keep them on. No problem at all. They'll know they've got limited play time. They know what's expected of them over the future years. But I think right now with Son, it is a bit of a decision to make, isn't it? I don't think it can be down to just him. I mean, we're talking massive wages for just sentiment. So what is the plan with him? Do we do, as I suggested, but you do with Kane, and we keep him on to help the young players develop as they come along, knowing that his game time is going to be used more sparingly, perhaps helping him to stay fit then as well, if he's only playing half the games or less. And his role is basically to help develop those players around him, show him all of his techniques and all of his professionalism rubs off on those around. That'll be a good thing. It's a lot of money to pay out for it, though, isn't it? So it remains to be seen. What is the overall plan? That's what it comes down to. What do you think, Michael?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, right? I wouldn't accept Son staying if he's supposed to be the first team player. I think he's past that. Especially with the amount of games that we play, I just think his body can't handle it, right? And I think what we are seeing right now from him this season is the perfect example of that, right? Because if you look at the minutes played, I think he's one of the highest in the team. So I wouldn't be opposed to him staying, but that's on the premise that he takes on more of a sub role or an occasional starter role, right? I think keeping him as a starter for the next season is a shot in the foot from our club, right? We can't have him starting for us next season, right? But again, like, I agree with the commenter who said that he's been like such a good long-standing servant of a club, right? That even if we accuse ourselves of being sentimental, I am sentimental towards him, right? I love him as a player. I love every single second that he has spent playing for this club. So if we found a way to keep him and actually make him useful, I would be definitely in that boat, right? I would definitely prefer that rather than just like flogging him to Saudi. Right?
Doesn't he block though? Can I ask Mikhail? Doesn't he block? We talked about this earlier. You've got Yang, Odeber, Moore, all left-sided players. Doesn't keeping Son, especially if we don't get Europe next season? Just hypothetical before anyone has a go at me. If we don't get Europe next season, which looks very likely we won't unless we win the Europa, doesn't having him completely block that path and make a mockery of what we're building, what the plan is, what the process is, what the youth project is?
Yeah, that's what I said, right? I would only accept that if he took on more of a sub role, right? Because then he's not blocking the development of younger players, right? If you actually give the first team spot to an Odobert or Young or someone we bring in even, right? And use Son as a sub in the Premier League, right? Where actually for 30 minutes he can use his pace and can use his like dynamism for a shorter period of time in the game, right? Or we use him for the cup games or something like that, right? Then I would be in that boat of him staying, right? But if he is supposed to be the starter, no, that's a waste of time, right? Then I am in your boat, right? He shouldn't be blocking the pathway for those players, right? And he can't even do that anymore, right? He can't play as much as we require him this season, right? And next season, even if we weren't in Europe, still playing every single game in the league, it's too much for him. You can clearly see that, right? So as I said, again, only if he accepted the sub role, right? But then I have to agree with some of the commenters. I don't think he would necessarily accept the role of a super sub, right? He's still 32, and I think, and no trophies to his name, right, in the club career. So I still think that there might be a bit of him wanting to go somewhere else and try to win something, right? Or maybe he wants to stay and win something with us, right? But then, as I said, the only way I can accept that is if he's not the starter next season, right? Because I think those times are gone, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, Kuva, what's your thoughts on this? I mean, we were talking about this right at the beginning of the show of, ideally what most clubs would do is they'd have a player like Son who's been a great and then replace them with a top footballer that can fit in, i.e. when you look at Liverpool moving on players like Sadio Mane and Firmino, they go and bring in players like Jota and Diaz and, Gakpo. But what we've done is we've already got the next ones coming. We've got Odeber, we've got Moore, we've got Yang. Kuba, what do we do with all those players next year that if we've only got one game a week? How on earth, what do we do? Do we buy another player for them to step over, but that is more of a seasoned pro that goes into the first team? Or do we say, no, hang on, we've only got one game a week. We're going to blood these youngsters. And if we do that, what can we actually expect as a football team? It's a double-edged sword, isn't it?
You tell me. That's why I'm not joining with the protesting. What the hell are we doing? I don't know what the plan is at this club at all any year. It's
no.
Are we looking to getting some ready-made players? Even if you don't rate Solanke, he's still what you'd call a ready-made player. He's been doing that role for many years. He's got the experience there. But then you buy in an Odeber, and then you buy an Archie Gray, you buy in a Bergval. They're the youngsters coming through. So which way are we looking at things? Going for the future or going for now? Bit of both. What's the manager going to be next season? If it is Ange at least we're going with some sort of consistency. Not the sort of consistency I want to see, but at least it is consistency, and the board would be backing them in that respect. But the likelihood is we're going to be getting rid of the manager, because we always do at some point, whether it's this year, end of this year, whether it's next season or middle of next season, whether it's at halftime. This is just what we do. So who is the next one coming in?
Hang on. Did you just slip in, or whether it's at half time?
I might have.
Yeah.
Big up Martin, yo.
Exactly. So what sort of manager do we get next? Because if anything that we've been taught over these 20 years is it could be anything, any style of management, any kind of needs on the player, the playing squad, with different types of players needed for that style of play. Forget about rigid systems and numbers on paper, but actual physical attributes, mental attributes needed for that kind of manager. And we will have a mishmash of everything like we always do, because we change halfway through these projects that aren't really projects. The only project is we keep starting things. That's it. We never see it through. I'd love to see us having a continuous, get the right manager in to start with. That's crucial. Right manager, right coaching staff. For me, that's above the any player we can sign. That's more important than anything else that happens.
I agree.
So if we got that in, I'd be okay seeing the academy players coming through if we go in that route. No problem at all. Give them loads of game time. Allow for the mistakes. Allow for being 14th if we got all youngsters in. I'd be okay with that, because I'd be saying,
I agree.
You could see they are learning their game, they're improving, and each season, then you aim at 10th, then you aim at 8th, then you aim at keep chipping away.
Transparency, isn't it, Keeves? It's transparency. If they're saying youth project and they show us youth project, we're like, fair play, they've told us the truth.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the problem with Tottenham. They tell us we're game-changing stadium and we're going to compete at the highest level, and we're going to compete with the biggest clubs, the Real Madrids, all these things they tell us, and then youth project.
But if you on the flip side, if you're going to go and get another Mourinho, you better be prepared to spend 300-400 million in a window, because he's going to need players at top quality.
Well, this is the interesting thing, guys, and this is what I've said all along. If it's a youth project, make it a youth project.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can all bitch and moan about not wanting one, but if it is one, make it one. Don't make it a halfway house. Make it a youth project. Right? If they had turned around and said, right, we brought in Ange, and it's going to be purely youth. We want players that are all 23 or under in this first team, and we're going to mold them. They're going to grow together. And you know what? There's going to be some ups. There's going to be some downs. Fine. But let's be brutally honest. When everyone's fit, when everyone is fit, this isn't a youth project.
Yeah.
When everyone is fit, that starting 11 might have a Bergvall or a Gray in it. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
One youngster. Right? It's not like I feel like people have got confused because of injuries that it's a youth project. These young players, you look, what's the first thing that happened at the weekend? The moment players are back fit, great, go and sit on the bench. Right? Yeah. Moore didn't even come on. Right? This is the thing for me. And listen, do I want a youth project? No, I want my club to go and spend hundreds of millions of pounds and win something. But at least that way I know. At least that way I can turn around and go, okay, this is the plan that you've said. Right? This is the plan. Me as Richard Savva, I don't get a say in this because you've decided. But at the moment, guys, I genuinely can't see what we're building, what we're creating. I see loads of people in the chat, not my chat room, like chat room say, oh, Spurs are back now. Yeah, because we've beaten we've beaten Brentford in a hard-fought win, and then a really crappy win against Man United. People go, we're back. The project's back on track. What project? Vicario's 27. Porro's 25, 26. Romero's 26, 27, whatever he is. Right? Ben Davis is still playing nearly every game. He's like 31, 32. Yeah. Bentancur's 27. Maddison's 28. Yeah, Basuma's 27 or 28. Yeah, Timo Werner at his age. Son, Solanke. This isn't a youth project. I need it to be one or the other. Sorry for the rant. I need one every string.
Totally agree.
You've got to have a bit of a rant.
So in the summer, guys, I know I'm going to go for another 10, 15 minutes and then wrap it up. But in the summer, I've put in here, what are the priorities? I want to focus on the midfield area at the moment. At the moment, you would say we've got 5 central midfielders at this football club. And I don't mean Kulu and Madison. I mean midfielders, not playmakers, proper centre mids, right? You've got Basuma, Bentancur and Sarr. And then you've got Gray with an asterisk next to his name and Bergvall.
Yeah.
People are talking about, Basuma and Bentancur need to go this summer. What would we do as a football club? Are we then going to go and buy 2 really good central midfielders, meaning that one of Gray or Bergvall doesn't play each week, or meaning they both don't play each week? Or are we going to go and complement that with 2 more young central midfielders and play Gray and Bergvall? Like, what do we do here?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go on that. As far as I'm concerned, I would love to see a youth project. I've always enjoyed seeing academy players given a chance, but we rarely see that, especially in the last 20 odd years.
Yeah.
It used to be that who wouldn't want to see another Ledley King come through, another Harry Kane. I mean, these are the things you dream of seeing. It really unites the fans, especially the local fans. They will always want to see somebody coming through who's a local lad, Tottenham through and through. It's important for all teams, but we've drifted away from it regularly to the point where we've just got this. Again, it's an inconsistent recruitment to go with the inconsistent performances and choice of managers and everything. So, what Savva said a minute ago is bang on. I want to see a full-on, all-in commitment to something, which is something we just don't see at this club. So it's a massive part of the problem. For me, I'm not even going to talk about players who I want coming in or what sort I want coming in. I'm going to just double down what I said a minute ago. For me, the biggest issue at the club is get the right manager in with the right coaching staff, and then an understanding that the board knows what is needed for that team, that management team, the structure, what they need to do their job to the best of their ability. I do not believe we have owners and a chairman that are capable of making those decisions correctly. They are hit and miss at best. Whenever we get a Pochettino or a Redknapp or a Yol in, it's blind luck. It's not by design. Whenever we've gone for big name managers, Mourinho, Conte, it hasn't worked.
Who did he want before Poch, Cooves? He wanted Louis van Gaal. That's who he wanted. Yeah. But he went to Man United because he met Levy and wasn't convinced by the project. So he went to Man United, and then we got Pochettino.
All 3 of those managers, there were huge doubts over them by the fan base. I remember it well. It was like Pochettino, what's he done? Southampton, get out of it. Espanyol, what, he's done nothing. Yeah. But you then look back at it, Redknapp as well. That Redknapp was a huge punt. Nobody expected anything from him. He got a West Ham team playing some tidy football, but not really doing much with it. Yeah. We didn't expect anything from him. We thought, it's a stopgap until we get a big name manager. He did.
I was delighted when we got Harry Redknapp as our man. What year? Harry Redknapp was 2008. Oh, it was 2010. No, it was earlier than that, wasn't it? 2009. 2009. I was delighted with Harry Redknapp because we saw him win the FA Cup with Portsmouth. He beat us in the did they beat us in the semi-final that year? Portsmouth.
Yeah, when it 1-0.
Yeah, it was last minute. Yeah, it was final. I was delighted with Harry Redknapp because it was me being a child back then because it was 2010. I can't even remember. How old was I in 2010? I was 15. 15. I was delighted. We just had proper football. It's 4-4-2, proper football, flying wing backs, flying wingers. Bring it back. If that's gun-ho football I can get behind because you're going to concede a load of goals, but my God, is it exciting? We don't. But so bring back Harry Redknapp. I want him now. That was good to support Spurs with Harry Redknapp in charge.
I suppose overall, though, my answer would have to be if I'm going to be forced into like what sort of players, what sort of team are we going to build? I'd be happy going along the sort of Ajax or Dortmund kind of route.
I would as well.
Just bringing that highly talented youngsters, allow them time to flourish, and accept that every now and then you're going to have a season that is not that great because they're not coming through at a regular rate of knots. So you might have players in development for a couple of years. You might have a lean season, but then you're back on it again. It's an acceptance of these clubs that's what's going to happen. You can have relative success doing it at the same time. The likes of what Sevilla have done over the last couple of decades, all those Europa wins, you can be a relatively smaller club to the mega giants at the top and still have success.
Look at the success they've had. Kuva, look at the success Sevilla have had in the last 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
Like when people always say things like, oh, it's only Sevilla. Like, you know, oh, these teams in Spain. Look at Sevilla. Imagine Spurs have had Sevilla's last 20 years.
I'd be ecstatic.
Haven't they won like 6 European trophies or something? Like you know, cups, like Mikhail, just quickly, and then I've got one more question after this one, but just quickly, Mikhail. If I said to you next year we're going to play a 3-man midfield and Bergvall and Gray are going to start,
yes,
does the third player in that midfield need to be a proper senior pro that sits and leads? A Locatelli, a Rodri. I'm not saying Rodri before anyone shoots me. A senior pro to play alongside them, or can we get away with having 2 18-year-olds in midfield next season?
No, you can't. As simple as that for me, right? Especially in the midfield, especially with how football is right now. We talked briefly about it, right? But I think the midfield is the most important part of the pitch, especially now. It always has been, but especially now, in my opinion, if you lose the battle in the midfield, you lose the whole game. I think we have plenty of examples from this season where teams that have better midfields completely run us over. I think the 2 best examples are Chelsea and Liverpool, where we completely lost the battle with our senior pros like Bentancur and Bissouma, right? So for me, putting 2 18-year-olds in there without an experienced head to lead them would be a disaster, right? And it's not like I'm doubting Archie Gray and Bergvall in terms of like how good they can become, but they aren't those type of players right now, right? Right now,
Lubo's
they are
coming for you, Mikhail. Lubo,
do you want an hour conversation on Archie Gray and his development of
Lubo's sending you a threatening letter. He's going to give you a call.
Lubo's got a little Savva somewhere, just poking it with needles. Mikhail, you're bang on. If those 2 play, they need a leader. And unfortunately, for me, Bentancur's too unreliable. Suma's not that guy. And Papa Sarr, I'm sorry, guys, I'm going to say it. I do not rate Papa Sarr as a midfielder. I think he's got a wonderful engine. I think if I wanted someone to go and run the 1,500 meters, the marathon, whatever, cool. As a footballer, I don't know. People rave about him. Like we gave him like a 7-year contract or something, didn't we?
I was a fan when he originally joined, and he's starting to wear my patience thin because he's not developed as a footballer. When he was started, he's developed. He's not developed as a footballer.
His athleticism gives us the illusion.
Is that potentially because the coach is not coaching him to be a better footballer? Is that potential because he looked okay under Conte? AC Milan, he played for us.
I don't. I'll be honest, Ben, and I want to
never moved. But it was when we played against AC Milan in the San Siro. Him and Skip were the 2 best players on the pitch by a country mile.
Sure, but I just want to hear that comment Kuva just started, because I think the comment Kuva's about to make is going to be exactly where I'm at with Sarr. Can you say that again, Kuva?
I'll bet it is as well. Sarr, his athleticism gives the illusion that he's actually doing something.
Bang on.
And how often do we say that's an illness, if you like, of the Premiership over the last few years for me.
Bang on.
Skill and individual talent and flair has been replaced by work rate and systems of play, and it's a worse watch, in my opinion. I think football is worse than it used to be.
Do you know what? I've never agreed with you more, Kuva, and I've agreed with you a lot down the years. But do you know what I think's interesting about this whole thing is we've got a lot of midfielders that tend to not do anything for games and games and games. They then have one good game and we go, oh, tell you what, if coached properly, this guy's amazing. I just look at Sarr and when I look at a midfielder especially, I look at all players like this, but when I look at a midfielder, my first thing is, what does he do with his feet? What's the first thing? How does he receive the ball? What's his next move? For me, Papa Sarr is someone that, runs around a lot. He'll try and break up some play. But when he's got the ball, I don't see what he offers that you couldn't put in Gray or Bergvall in that place instead, if I'm honest. So basically what I've just done there is poo-pooed our entire midfield three senior options. I know he's not old, but Sarr, Basuma and Bentancur. I think that in that summer, you need to go and buy at least 2 senior pros that can play in midfield and 3, depending on if we get into Europe or not. If we don't get into Europe, you'll get away with having 4 midfielders.
Well, we need the players, Savva, because even when we were playing one game a week, we still had wholesale injuries. We need a bigger squad anyway because they're all injured. We need wholesale players because even when we were playing one game a week, half the team was injured because of the way we play football.
Yeah, guys, I always look at this from like a point of view that you can register 25 players, right, into the league and into any European competition, right? So for me, there is no reason not to have 2 players per position. That's how I look at it, right? If you play 4-3-3, in my opinion, you should have 2 goalkeepers, 8 defenders, 6 midfielders, and 6 attackers in the squad, right? That's for me bare minimum, right? Bare minimum if you want to be like a solid, team that fights for titles or for trophies or for good league positions, right? And if you look at our midfield, we have Maddison, Bissouma, Bentancur, Sarr, Bergvall, and Kulusevski if you want to count him, and Archie Gray if you want to count him as a midfielder, right?
Yeah.
And out of those, how many would you keep, right? That's my question. I would keep Bergvall, I would keep Kulusevski, Maddison, Gray, and Sarr. Sarr mostly because I think he has a really long contract. I don't think anyone is buying him off of us because Levy would just rinse them in the transfer discussion, right? So Bissouma and Bentancur are the 2 players to replace, in my opinion. And if you take out 2 players and you leave our team with 5/4 midfielders, in my opinion, to have a healthy squad, you need to bring 2 midfielders in, right? And those 2 midfielders, considering the ages that we have, right? Considering when you look at Bergvall, Gray, Sarr being really young, and even Kulusevski is not the oldest, right? Maddison would be the only senior midfielder. For me, those 2 midfielders that you would bring in to have a healthy squad would need to be like 24 plus midfielders, right? And at that point, I think you have a healthy squad, right? A healthy midfield. Quality is a different thing, right? I'm just talking purely from like squad building perspective, right? And same thing in the forward line and back line. That's how I look at it, right? And I think the best teams, the healthiest squads, that if you look at other teams in our league or even different leagues, they have what I just described, right? They have 2 players per position at least, and even some of those players can play in different positions, right? To have more coverage, right? That's how I look at it. So for
you got
me,
to think of it like a workforce, don't you, Mikhail? You got to think
exactly. Right?
At the end of the day, it is a job. It is a workforce, and
exactly right.
Some days someone's going to be making the coffee, and some days someone's going to be working the till. You've got to have those options. But the problem is we're so rigid, Mikhail. We don't have a chance to sort of rotate because we're so rigidly set up that we have to play to the system rather than, this week we're playing Brentford. This week we're playing Bournemouth, who are good at this, so we need to do this. This week we're playing Man City. We're not going to have the ball. We need to be counter-attacking. It's who we are, mate. That's it. It's who we are. We have one way of playing, and if we only shoehorn ourselves into one way of playing, the workforce can't thrive because there's no potential interest to being out this week we have to do something different.
Exactly right. This has been something that really irks me with how Ange develops this team and how he uses the tools that he has, right? Because I talked about the mismanagement of players in terms of putting them in, like giving them a wrong role compared to what their strengths are. But I also think he's so rigid with the system, right? He has his idea of play, right? He has his idea of inverting fullbacks and wingers that are set up wide, right? And I feel like there were plenty of occasions this season where he could rotate, right? Where he could use different players in some matches, right? Like in Europa League, right? Where we didn't have to play Udogi, we didn't have to play Poro. We could play different players in those positions. But he has such a rigid view on the team, right? That he would rather flog a player and use them to their limits rather than actually use his squad. And also, this has been part of my point where people said, oh, why would you play Spence, right? He's shit. He's never been good, right? Yes, but he is your player. Use him if you have to, right?
Yeah.
This is the
Spence
squad that
you
have.
Best defender this year.
Yeah,
he's been our best defender.
Yeah, listen, Spence has proven a lot of people wrong, right? But even look at this from this point of view, right? If you have a nail and you need to hammer the nail in, right? Would you rather use a rusty hammer or your fist, right? Because that's what Ange has been doing, right? He's using his fist or his head or something rather than actually using a rusty hammer, which a rusty hammer is like a region, let's say, right?
Yeah.
I would rather use a rusty hammer and be delicate with it and actually try to use that tool to its ability rather than use my own head, right? And try to, injure myself in the process, right? It's like
I don't think he's using his fists. I think he's using his hamstrings instead of his fist.
Look, there's one question that we've got in the chat that I just wanted to bring up, and then we are going to end the show very, very shortly. And I'm going to transfer you all over to Sean and Johnny's new channel. So please give them some support. And as I said, all of the community come and help out the entire community. Where are we? This comment here, by the way, yeah, Foxy, absolutely agree. Coover always drops a gem. Drops a gem. And he's also good when talking about football as well. So make of that what you will. Finn has said here, Savva, if Poch suddenly became available in the summer, but Iriola and Frank declared they were interested in joining the club, who would you prefer? Listen, I'm going to go around just one sentence from each of us. I'll start and say, for me, if it was a choice between Poch and Iriola, I don't want to go backwards. I would want Iriola. I want him to bring in those fresh ideas. I think that he's on that upward trajectory. However, if the option was Frank or Poch, then I would want Poch. However, if the option was Frank or Ange, I would want Frank. So hopefully that answers the question for you. Basically, any one of them other than Ange. Kuva, if the option became available, you're on mute.
Muted.
See,
Foxy, he doesn't always drop gems.
It was. It's just nobody knows what it was.
Yeah.
Same reasoning, same order for me, mate. I think right now we should be moving heaven and earth to get Iriola in. Right now, put all the groundwork in, do everything you can, because there is something special about that manager. And I think if we delay it, he's going to end up somewhere bigger than we are.
I think that's already too late, Cooves. I think he'll get an offer to a big team this year. It wouldn't surprise me to see him at a much more accomplished football club. Even if, let's say, Aston Villa get rid of Unai Emery, which I don't think they will, the first guy they're getting in is Iriola, because he's the perfect progression from Spanish-style football manager to another Spanish-style football manager. I think it's a progression.
And clearly improves players, doesn't he, Ben?
And improves, but I see Iriola going above us. So I think if Poch comes free, I think you go hell for leather for him, and you try and rediscover the old project, and Levy gets out of the football inside of the football club, and you try and make amends. I see Iriola going above us. I think he's a brilliant manager, and I think his stock is at an all-time high, and I think elite football clubs will be sniffing round him this summer.
Yeah. Can I just say quickly before I bring you in, Macau, do you know the funny thing about this is they showed on Sky Sports News the other day the first 10 games that Iriola had as Bournemouth manager.
Yeah.
Someone at my front door. Who's coming into my? Oh my god! Oh. Sorry, so I was thinking, who is coming into my house, and I realised it's my godparent. Sorry. I was like, what? Well, who's got a key? Let me just open this door. 1 second. So if you can hear me, is that you, G? There you go. Go on, dogs. Sorry about that, guys. That was completely unprofessional.
No worries, mate.
I keep Frank locked in with me now when I'm streaming, purely because I need to be able to make sure he's okay at all times. But then when the front door goes, he's itching to get out. What was I saying? Yeah, they showed the trajectory. So they showed that his first 10 games, Mikhail, he didn't get a win. And they've shown since then, the graph is just like that. The graph of everything, goals scored are up, like massively up, goals conceded are massively down, possessions up, chances created, wins, points per game, clearance, everything they showed on this graph. They're like 20 metrics like that. And this is the thing for me. When people say you need 3 to 5 years, he's been there the same amount of time as Ange, and they're just seeing this. He's a brilliant manager, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah, to answer the question you highlighted earlier, right? I know this might be like a bit controversial, but I would put it like Iraola, Frank, and Poch, right? And it's not any disrespect to Poch, right? But I am also in the boat where I don't like doing, like, repeating the same thing again. Like, you don't step twice into the same river. We have this saying in Polish, right? I know it doesn't make sense in English, not really, right? But it's for me, I would rather see how Thomas Frank manages this team rather than seeing Poch again. Nothing against Poch, I would still welcome him with open arms, right? But I would rather see new ideas, right? To back your comment on Iraola, right? If you actually look at all the statistics about pressing and running and all that stuff, Bournemouth aren't far behind us, right? So Iraola also plays a physically demanding style of play, right? It's not structured like Arsenal, for example. Arsenal, they don't run a lot, right? They play a lot at the ground, right? They don't press a lot, right? They press from time to time, but they don't do it so like for such extended periods of time like we do, right? So Iraola's style of play would still be demanding on this team, right? It's not like we could completely avoid injuries under Iraola, right? People would have to understand this, right? That we would still struggle a bit with his style of play, right? Yeah. But I think what Iraola has, what Ange doesn't, is the adaptability. He has the knowledge to use the players to their strengths, right? So issues that I highlighted today with Ange that really like lost, which is why I lost faith in him, right? I look at him using our players and the tool that he has, and he's just mismanaging every single player and the squad and all that stuff, right? Whereas with Iraola, even though I think they actually play not similar style of, it is actually kind of similar style of,
we'll debate this. It's not in any way, shape, or form.
Wait. I'm talking from the point of view of the amount of pressing and running that he does, right? They play much more direct. They set up defensively much better, right? I'm talking purely from like physical demands, right? Sorry, I should specify that, right?
Yeah.
But I think he has the knowledge and the ability to use the squad to its full strength, rather than what we are doing under Ange, which is exposing ourselves defensively and also mismanaging players, right? So Iraola, for me, like one of the better choices we could make. Probably if we sack Ange in the summer, I think this is the guy that we should absolutely do everything in our power to get. But I kind of agree with what you guys said, that I think there might be bigger clubs looking at him, right?
Can I tell you that, and I'm going to end the show in literally 60 seconds, 120 seconds. Can I tell you the one thing that I like about Iriola's team when I watch them is it's that little thing called coaching. They're structured.
Yeah.
And what I mean is they've had loads of injuries, but when those players come in from the reserves, backup, whatever you want to call them, they slot into a well-oiled, well-drilled machine and they get on with the job. what I see with Spurs is I'll argue this with anyone. We are not drilled. There is no coaching going on in midfield patterns, the way the defense plays. There's no coaching. We are a moments team, and in moments we do some very good things. And people go, "Oh, this tactic," but I just want a manager. I've said this all along. I just want a manager that can drill a team. I really don't feel like I'm asking for a lot. I've not said we need Ancelotti, Pep Guardiola, Klopp. I've not asked for that. I just want someone that can get a team and go, what have I got? How do I get the best out of them? And how can we be sensible? But everyone's jumped onto this brave. We're brave. We're not brave. We're stupid. There's a huge difference. So look, guys, thank you so much for all coming on. I've really enjoyed that. Lots of different conversations there. Lots of different topics. Kuva, thank you very much. Thank you for your gems, your nuggets of wisdom that you always bring to the show. Thank you, Mikal. I really appreciate that. You're always welcome on, as you always know. And thank you, Ben, as always, the maker of the coffee. Thank you very much
me.
For coming on.
As always.
I'll end the show with this. I've just had a WhatsApp from Ian Lubin, i.e. Lubo, who said, how did you know about my Savva doll with pins? Was sitting on the train smiling with the Archie Gray comments. Of course he was. Of course he was. Of course he was. Archie Gray for Ballon d'Or next year. Guys, girls, thank you very much. I'll be back later today. And then we've also got 3 shows today. One on Big Up for all the European scores tonight. Yeah. Take care, everyone. Much love. Subscribe to everyone else. And as always, come on, you Spurs.